morning to you, and thanks so much for joining us on the show that puts you at the heart of everything we discuss. Hope you had a good Christmas day yesterday. For our show today, we'll be having Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleiman Abrahima, for our news review. And on our big stories this morning, it's about government's debt exchange program. We are now learning that individual bondholders will be included, and the deadline has been shifted to January 16 from December 30. What does this mean? And also, what does the exemption of pension funds mean for the program? What are the alternatives government has as it seeks to get this country out of this mess? Plus, Clocksack accuses some corporate trustees of exploiting prior knowledge of the debt exchange program. Also, we are asking, can government succeed with this program in the midst of threats and uncertainties? And should government review its approach to the program? Also, more deaths recorded over the weekend in the Bawku clashes. We get the latest on the situation there. You also don't want to miss our Drive Safe segment. This Yuletide, Ghana wants you alive, and you need to be safe on our roads. Later, how is Christmas treating you? Share your thoughts and experiences with us via phone and social media, including all the issues discussed. We'll take a quick breather. When we come back, we'll bring you the news. I'm Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah, and this morning we start our news on a rather sad note. A 40-year-old mother has died after a Toyota Tundra vehicle veered off the road and ran into a nearby shop in Bawku Estate Junction in Kumasi. Mina Ama was selling in her makeshift shop when her 9-year-old son, when the car smashed the structure, reducing it to rubble. The perpetrator died shortly after being rushed to the Menchia hospital, while his son is currently battling for his life. Clinton Yeboah was at the scene and reports.
The Tundra vehicle with registration number DV2867 was moving through the Obofo Street curve in Bawku Estate, where victims were stationed. Eyewitnesses told Love News the Tundra vehicle was moving at a top speed, smashed the wooden structure, which collapsed on 40-year-old Mina Ama and her 9-year-old son. The deceased hit her head to the ground and bled profusely. Sister of the deceased, Bernice Abu-Baidoo, who saw it all, described the incident as horrible.
Today, me answer can so no, but me cry na meti wo baby oti wana na meti. Ina bibi ka che me say me sorry. Me cry me ni ma dia na me kwaye wo container nim. Ana me sorry nti me sorry ya. Me too many next week na eba no. Na no odi nti na me ne baba ako eti me nche. Nti me pie ya se me beti ma fe se me na pie na. Ha na eba dia me hu ya ne se bran. Afi wona matumu mu mintime kasa na me nua yi hyase na me de nkrofo mu so me mu na je yede yi me nua ene akwala ya yede abedru hospital yo.
Louis, his son, is one of the victims who narrowly escaped death from the accident. He is receiving treatment at the Menchia hospital.
Second, this speedy ban, Madame Samuel Savocano, to be an Amesova for Honson Cano said, Efa. The man who did the moon is here, a bomb at the honum. Maybe Sar Sonnen Misabia, Carden is Simiso. Sana structure and a Bogumiso. And to be also named Samisha structure and as one who is a quanka crowd the home to me nine, a PM was so bishas, and Tim Forson and Chimena left and a P. Minusabia Monquana coming. Yeah, and Timmy P and who is Uncle 14 Tima. I want to say about time and Bible so come.
Eyewitness account indicates the Toyota Tundra was occupied by a driver and 3 other persons who are believed to be in their early 20s. Worried residents are demanding justice for the deceased.
Tiafena o mabefa nkrofo car no e de akoni ade by enim de be free ma but the woman say justice enye na adwuma ye hwe say police for ye omu gidie ye omu bibia say omu no ebedum aboa yen na bibia akoso epepepe me say ni nua ba akopa ya some obeka say we asie enko ba bia na say wo bibi wo police ni bi obetumi aka bibia ma o le ba so omu ja some we supanika dia enye adwuma enye yi kura.
The two main suspects are currently in police custody for preliminary investigations. Clinton Yeboah's report for JoyNews.
To some other stories now, and as the world celebrates Christmas, traders at the Takoradi market say there's nothing merry about this year's event. The traders say they're unable to make merry because of poor sales. KMJ spoke with some of them, and here's his report.
We're here in the Central Market to find out exactly how business is doing, what people are actually talking about in terms of Christmas, in terms of the economy, in terms of making sure that they also get to enjoy this Christmas. So right here in the market, Central Market in Takoradi, the capital of Western Region. This is Joy Prime, Joy News, KMJ right here. I'm here with this woman who sells willy here and a few other things. Mommy, what's the record? Bibi record.
Bibi record. Alukodo. Ba ye hunshi, ye hu edomni na weke di market seka hadi ye hunshi.
Hadi na man ko market seka.
Awayama.
Na man for to ade there near 24th. Won touch. Ye ni skeni wo, won touch. This is na be catch na ban the Christmas for your Christmas pa yen to hwe de oni abusuan de na be catch na ban
won tade scan won tade nti ya catch ban say o miss cambro krom miss cambro krom ye hu hwe
yo ma me no so ke sa wo to ade nti on dey say wo wan ya kakra na obeto ade ana
my brand sana mabota de npo enye bi ni
ade ti ana skeni
wa mo because me krumpo enye afisu enye ska ma me enti dry da sa na ye ko no
enti you compare bronya last year and this year nsunsun wo mpa
oh last year yes in this year skeni wo kra skeni wo won say afi se na nyama se ko ye no nti amaye hu ne ni su ni ye niya sa de anka ba ye tuwe o mo ye chichire ni o mo do ko che but ye hu ne sa oh yebedi Christmas afina to ye nko ade yebedi aseda ne de ye de be ma papa yi wa ma afia akwa abeto ye ni wa ma na ho de ne nko ade yebedi oh out of me wish you be happy Christmas ya me shiro bia
nam na kama de na man phone into me ma ho beto ne bo adian na
wosu wonyeska won pen wo bo wosu pen wontum nti wontum ntade pen sha nti wo ba nam na abobu po wosu no boya de sisi nam critical 1000 sisi nam no so we increase e wan ti ma bro ye po mu hu ma me ya mu hu kwa ma sisi abrabo na aye de na amen ti won ka bi men
ati na say this year na kasa economy no so e din sem bebre ba e ne na person ka kira ban well ye ko 2023 mu
ma ya pede ka cha ban de yesra na ala onwu ya mobo ma me je mutu ma MPP na ma ma enu mu hu o sa na sisi ado ya de na ma yan pa.
How is market?
Oh, market, new market is dull, but when you go to old market around the U84, market is already yes.
So why are you not in the other side and here?
I'm come to buy a chicken. That's a pass here, but I'm still up to the Zenith Bank opposite.
Okay. It means that you are enjoying some sales from Christmas.
I'm enjoying, but my sisters is here are worried because market is not moving just last year.
So the economy has made it things a bit.
Economy is hard, but only God. But at the Sunday, daily bread. When even can daily bread we go chop for where you should in.
Okay, so to the 24th night, where are you going? Are you going to?
I'm going to. Oh no crap! I'm going to church.
Okay.
I'm going to praise my God. Ghana is hard, but I'm going to praise my God that 1 year come to the work and the waba come from. Hey!
Really excited woman there. Well, some other stories now. The Ryan Foundation has extended its benevolence to deprived residents of Ajana Dono in the Asuaman district of the Eastern region. The organization, with support from the public, distributed food items and clothing to residents to help them celebrate Christmas.
This road leads to Ajinadono, a deprived community in the Sojaman district of the eastern region. The community lacks some basic social amenities as residents here live impoverished lifestyles depending on the little income from their farming and trading activities.
Our main challenge we are facing in the community is potable drinking water. Because here we don't have any potable drinking water. We don't have safe water that we take. And sometimes the water we take, we share the water with cattle.
Our road from Marine to Jekiti, they came and started the road about 2 years. Yeah, 2 years now. Nothing has done. So the problem, we are facing the problem. Even we are the farmers in the community. When we read the fertilizer time like this, we haven't seen anything about the fertilizer.
Learning of the plight of the residents and taking into consideration the current economic hardship, Rayon Foundation coordinated a donation exercise for the residents. People donated to the cause to help the residents celebrate Christmas.
We all know we are in Christmas season, and we just want to portray that love that Jesus showed us to come to this community today, to extend our love to them by giving a lot of shoes, clothes, rice, oil, and many more to the aged and the kids, just to put a smile on their faces this Christmas. The other things that we do, like we train people in liquid soap. We also help people who want to sew, but they don't have sewing machines and all that. So we are welcoming everybody on board. We believe that together we can always make it bigger and better.
The residents appreciated the kind gesture from Rayon Foundation. The foundation hopes to continue to support the less privileged and make the world a better place for them. Fred Kwame Asai, Joy News, Ajinadono.
Away from Christmas stories, the Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei-Mensah has expressed grave concern about what he calls the lack of commitment by afflicted communities in dealing with illegal mining, despite its devastating impact on their water bodies and farmlands. His concern follows attacks on soldiers deployed to clamp down on Galamsey. They were pelted with stones and deadly weapons from residents in some affected communities. Nanaya Ojima has more.
7 more districts in the Ashanti region have been invaded by illegal miners, despite increased efforts to stop the menace. Out of the 43 districts in the region, 25 are now afflicted by Galamsey. A military swoop at Mansodatano in September this year angered the youth who were benefiting from pits they claim were opened by other miners. Sometimes, the resentment degenerates into aggression towards the military. Though the military have restrained themselves, Brigadier General Joseph Afo wants stakeholders to call such irate youth to order.
It is worthy to note that the year 2022 recorded the arrest of several illegal miners and seizure of their equipment. This goes to attest to our readiness in dealing decisively with perpetrators of this monstrous act. The honorable guests of honor, ladies and gentlemen, let me be quick to add that the posture of some locals towards troops on anti-Galamsey operations has been a cause of worry to us. There have been instances where some locals pelted troops with stones and other harmful materials they laid their hands on. Some of these individuals sometimes wield deadly weapons against troops, all in an attempt to frustrate troops from undertaking their legally sanctioned duty. It is my hope that the appropriate stakeholders would be impressed upon to caution these youth to desist from such acts to avoid any clash with the military and other security agencies. This notwithstanding, I would also like to sound a note of caution to all troops to also refrain from indulging in illegal or one-man operations.
Meanwhile, the Ashanti Regional Minister, Simon Osei-Mensah, has lauded the intervention of the military in the fight against illegal mining. He further called for increased support in dealing with the miners.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've reiterated time and time again my grave concern about the rate at which our water bodies and environment are being destroyed due to illegal mining across the region. I urge you to continue to support us in the fight so that the menace can be dealt with.
For JoyNews, Kumasi.
Now, the Upper West Regional Chairman of the National Democratic Congress, the NDC, Abdul Nasir Sani Bunas, has stated there is no member of the party who is better placed to lead them in the rescue of Ghana from its economic hardships they are wallowing. Chairman Bunas, as he is affectionately called, revealed that regional chairmen of the NDC in the 5 regions in the northern Gulf of the country have to crusade for the endorsement of John Dramani Mahama as the party's flag bearer in 2024. He said this when the party held a unity walk in Wa.
National Democratic Congress, NDC, in the Upper West region, the past months had held branch, constituency and regional executive elections to choose executives who will not only lead the party to the 2024 general election, but run the affairs of the party for the next 4 years. The campaign in the run-up to the elections was intense, rigorous, and at some point, disagreements between opposing candidates resulting in mudslinging and vituperations. The election is over now, but long-time relationships among some aspirants has strained, blood ties severed, families separated and torn apart, and communities divided. The Upper West Regional Election Directorate, aware of its consequential effect, decided to bring all victors, vanquished and disgruntled members of the party together for a unity walk. The turnout was massive and has representatives from all 11 constituencies in the region. Led by the Upper West Regional Chairman of the NDC, Abdul Nasir Sani, they spilled all streets, walk, dance to party songs from loud sound speakers and brass band amid cheers from supporters from the fringes on the road. After almost 2.5 hours of drumming home the message of peace and unity in the party, they were back to the starting point at the World Volleyball Court and addressed by the leadership of the party. 2 issues reigned supreme in the speeches: economic hardship unleashed on Ghanaians by the MPP government and the groundswell of support for John Dramani Mahama.
Now elections are over, we are all together, and we want to demonstrate that we are ready to take power. We have to take power to rescue Ghana. We have to take power to rescue Ghana from this incompetent government of MPP. MPP has demonstrated that they really don't have the men. In fact, they don't have the women, they don't have the children. They are empty barrels who make so much noise. They have demonstrated it in the last 6 years. Take any indicator of economic development, whether it is health, it is agri, it is education, it's a complete mess. And there's a need for us to rescue Ghana from this satanic clause of the MPP. I want to assure everyone that we in leadership will continue to give you the leadership that you need to be able to get the power that this country so far desires. We assume, in fact, President Mahama is the presumptive leader of the NDC. And so all of us must rally behind President Mahama and make sure that we don't waste our money in any primaries. Once we don't waste our money, we can marshal our forces to be able to take power from the NPP. And I want to advise all NDC members nationwide that there is a threat to our unity. Our MPs, who are representatives, I want them to truly represent us. Let me congratulate them for the last meeting that they have done. They have done well to take the people of this country from untold hardship, unnecessary taxations and other things. So please, let us come together. When we talk, people criticize. But John Mahama is the man for APP that will take us to 2024. No matter who else comes. So please, let everybody come and deceive us into thinking that there is an alternative. Those who claim there's an alternative are not sympathizers or even party members of this country.
For Upper West Regional Chairman of the NDC, Abdul Nasser Sani Bonas, there is no better person in the NDC who can lead the party to the 2024 general election than John Dramani Mahama, and revealed that regional chairmen in the 5 regions of the North will soon embark on a crusade for him to be endorsed by other regions and the party.
So we took it upon ourselves, the 5 northern regional chairmen and our executives, to rally behind His Excellency John Dramani Mahama to come and rescue the Ghana for us. More especially, it's going to start from Upper West region. That's why I was emphatic in saying that Upper West, we are going with no other person than His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. A whole lot I could not even mention all here. But I can see business-oriented, developmental-oriented, what have you, all those things, you can count them on him. He has done it before, he can do it again.
Working for JoyNews, Rafik Salam. Wow.
Now, before I go, a boy who suffers from esophageal stricture is only able to speak by injecting his food through a specialized syringe. His life hangs in the balance and he needs surgery to correct the defect. JoyNews' Samuel Kojo has been to his family house in the Western region and reports.
I supum pam na pubayamam. No backlibiam trying po. Po uncle. Anande mende syringe marching. Nam dampano on the affair. Supini.
How ne de wife a bebre on podding yanko ponadum masisi or down with one. On no oka kitty be nanka we.
The doctor ni bibia no chara order pass the way no where demo operation no be here $3,000 which is $3,000 na ono be 2 years new.
Vincent Atobra, a 25-year-old looking half his age. He has been feeding himself through a strange means, the use of a specialized syringe. He's done this for the past 3 years.
Me true today, me men Banimbia in Su Fufu Bawku, me Ada idea or yellow today, Tina Kokum Dikote, actually, the fat tupin. India for tupin, Moto Koku, tea or Nina, or one of the fat.
He has been feeding like this because he suffers from what is called corrosive esophageal stricture. Thirsty for water, he accidentally drank what looked like water but turned out to be caustic soda.
Namko school, Timfi school bear no na is commanding, is commanding and catch him and there. Catch him and the names commanding, no catch him there, Uncle Valentine, Nan Swiss when I'm Sabino. Tea, Uncle Valentine, I'm Sabino. Na, I didn't shame. To a shimmy dim na, me team one now, one bear. No, me some there, I'm by some now, nam ka de nsukwam ne dem no na mbesa nnomi sudana menumi
nte cover no chere ona na kada cover and na ye wonsu si ho na soda so si nchen but the who difference
chede bi nsu na sudano oye pepepe unikala.
After he drank the caustic soda, he recovered after receiving treatment, but his throat constricted again 3 years ago.
One more hospital. Hospital now because no the friend you quit. No one more no. Bibia to 2 years ma nam tum didim to me bibia. Nti children as also Yalban said or shall see beam.
Vincent says all efforts to get this rectified have yielded little result. His quality of life has reduced greatly. Vincent hungers to once again eat through his mouth, just like everybody. For now, even drinking water is impossible for him.
Bia, I suppose Nanam Pubayamam. No back the Biaman tramp. Poor uncle. And then there made the syringe marching. Nam dampano in the affair. Tupin. Mimicha. Ne tupnanka somewhere there. Me who they make me a mere fool. How about so? Tip na noche. Some me dinner. Indeed, Bankuma, uncle. Bundu wagina. Which means there. My fool.
Vincent is an orphan living with a grandmother. His aunt, Tewia, tells me, but for the grace of God, he would have lost his life long ago.
Nana na otenencheno. Ontumi nye ejuma papa biala. Cedri na walaka no wetu ho anoma biala ana no ontumonko da odene boko korobu na wakọ akaye ne Cedri no sika asam no so waayedin aha no de wa fa bebre mu ono mpo de Nyankopon na adom masisi ala odan wote wono ono oka ketikiti bi na nka owi osola ne minmu no ontumi menade ontumi didi ontumi nyehwe ono de bia eblan kotinti ti de edipani bia de fa tup no na wetumi didi.
For the past 3 years, one man has been of constant support to him. Eric Oko Hackman. He's been trying to rally support to help Vincent. Vincent's condition depresses him.
Where the operation no be here $3,000, which is $3,000. Now ono be 2 years new. Until by this time the obobo, last time the obobo. Until okoba no chede. Na kasa no amani paper there on phone call kurubu my paper no. Ma the kwanu was paper na spy. Until odo sana obebe ye. Eni bi say them scanners have no obobo twabio. No them sana me do to efru no do. Ono kromanfo no so yi ya na yenyiska na me do sma don phone continue mu no kwa na wazame bibi we no wase obenya 3,000 on the yashase there ye dia tri film ono baby akokọ no kada mo ba bebre but still sky option yenya.
Vincent yearns to taste and eat his grandmother's food once again, but who will make this dream come true? For JoyNews, Samuel Kojo Brace, Osiejo, Ahanta West Municipality, Western Region.
Achieve his dream. That'll be it for the news this morning on the AM show. But you know, the Frital Joy FM family party in the park is the perfect place for your family. It's today at the Ebri Botanical Gardens from 9 a.m. till you decide you've had enough fun. It's 100 cedis for a family of 6. You can walk to the Joy FM reception and pick one for yourself. And or you can dial the short code *713*003# *713*003# and select one and select Joy Party in the Park, or call 026-512-5318 for enquiries. Now, the Joy FM Party in the Park is sponsored by Frital Sunflower Cooking Oil. Enjoy the goodness in tasty meals. Fortune Rice, always on point, just like mom. Allianz Life Insurance, we secure your future. Syntex Tank, strong, tough. And it's supported by ATL, bringing fabrics to life. Mobile Doctors GH, the doctor at your home. The Ghana AIDS Commission, condomless sex is risky. If it's not on, it's definitely not in. And Qua Mixture, the medicine that works. Joy FM Family Party in the Park, your #1 family outdoor event. Remember, it's happening today at 9 a.m. at the Ebri Botanical Gardens. Please, you can call this number if you still need a ticket, 054-010-6466. We'll take a quick breather. When we come back, we delve into the headlines. Do stay. Thank you so much for staying on the AM show. It's now time to bring you our headlines. And as you may expect, I don't have any papers today. It's the holiday season and the papers are on a break. But there is definitely a lot happening. And on myjoyonline.com, we have those headlines for you. So there you have it. The banner story: government includes individual bondholders in domestic debt exchange. And I missed my former role, but I am relieved. John Buedu, I blame myself for my defeat. John Buedu again speaking on the probe with MFR Pawu yesterday. And so we'll just take it a story at a time. I've been joined by Executive Director for the Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleimana Brahima. Merry Christmas to you, Suleimana, and I hope the season is treating you well.
Merry Christmas and good morning to all our cherished viewers and listeners. Well, it's a holiday season, a little break from work, and that must be refreshing for everyone.
A break from work for you, but not for me. So we'll see how it goes in the coming days. But let's start off with that announcement about the debt exchange program, individual bondholders being included now, and the extension of the deadline from December 30 to January 16. This is the second time the deadline is being postponed. I mean, what goes through your mind as you hear all these new dimensions to the debt exchange program?
Well, for me, it appears to be another round of quite a confused policy position or policy decision. I think it's certainly something that is revolutionary in nature and would ordinarily require a lot of engagement, a lot of consensus building, a lot of public education to help calm the system and calm down people who may be quite anxious about what all these mean for our economy, for going forward into the next year and all of that. I remember when there was this whole issue about e-levy, the very obnoxious e-levy. The government, through the Ministry of Finance, decided to do a lot of town hall meetings to educate people on why government wants to take their money and the promises that were being made around e-levy. So when it was a time for the government to take people's money by way of taxes, the government felt the need to engage across the country, having town hall meetings and all of that. But this is perhaps even far more revolutionary than the e-levy. And yet, government is basically issuing statements telling people, look, we're going to take your money, we're going to exchange, bonds, and we have to restructure our debts, and you're going to be paid at this time or that time. These are the implications, without really engaging the people in a meaningful way. And for me, that is quite surprising. But again, whilst it surprises me, I think that it wouldn't surprise many, because that appears to be the way or the nature of governance under the Akufo-Addo regime, where government really tell people, this is what I'm going to do, whether you like it or not, this is what I'm going to do. And it's really, really unhelpful.
And so what are your impressions about how organized labor pushed so much to get the pension funds exempted from the program? Because like with the e-levy, we saw a pushback, but government still had its way. How does this come to you, especially with regards to how the TUC and organized labor really held their fort?
Well, it was a very impressive fight on the part of TUC and the Labour front. But hey, I would advise that they shouldn't rest on their arse, because really this government cannot be trusted when it comes to these things. The fact that government has announced that, pension funds are going to be exempted, I think we shouldn't just take it like that, because this is a government that can come the next day and tell you, okay, well, we had said pension funds were not going to be included, but at this stage we've decided it's going to be included. So it's a government that you cannot really put your words for it. And look at the deadline for the debt exchange program, or in fact, it's the debt restructuring program. This is about the third time that it's been shifted, and you wonder, do they really know what they want to do, and have they really done all the necessary arrangements and planning to get this thing going, or it's just, let's do it at this time. Then they realize it's not going to work, and they say, okay, we extend it by this, we extend it by that. I would encourage the TUC and organized labor, and of course, the actions benefits all of us, because we all are contributors to pension funds, and so they are fighting on our behalf. We are not members of the TUC, but their actions certainly benefit us. But like I said, this government, when it comes to matters of finance, we cannot take their words for it. The finance minister and his deputy vowed that we're never going to go to IMF. What happened? There are several statements they've made that, certainly anybody who took their words for it was perhaps deceiving themselves.
Right. So, this has consequences for our expectation of reaching a board-level agreement with the IMF by the first quarter of this year. We know how important and critical it is for us to get onto this program as soon as we can. And with all these modifications, day in, day out, pushbacks, resistance and all, what is your genuine anticipation of how this IMF program will go?
Well, at this stage, we really have no choice but to subscribe to the IMF bailout. And given where we are, it's certainly the case that we are in a weaker position, and therefore may have to swallow certain bitter pills in terms of certain decisions that will be made by the IMF that we would have to comply, whether we like it or not. I remember there was a time that people were saying, look, the way this government is behaving, by refusing to go to the IMF, it will go to the IMF only when we are in a deep crisis. And at that point, the IMF will be the one dictating the pace, because you need the money. And so you may basically have to accept whatever terms they give you, because at this stage, there's nowhere to turn to except to go for the IMF bailout. And be it as it may, as I've said, one would have been expecting the government to really be educating the people about what all these means. what conditionalities are being imposed on us and what are the implications of those conditionalities on lives and livelihoods and on businesses. But the government has basically refused to do that. I don't know whether it is out of that shame that, oh, we won't go to IMF, we won't go to IMF, and we've ended up being at the IMF. And so to now go around to explain to people what the conditionalities might likely be and what the implications of an IMF program would be for businesses, for the economy, and all of that. I don't really know whether it is the managers of our economy feeling shameful to engage the people on this front. But that's really what we have to do as a country, so that people would understand what is it that we are getting ourselves into and what are the implications for me as an individual, for business, for me as a business owner, for me as an employer, for me as maybe head of a household. We need to do that. But again, the government is adamant. They are managing Ghana as if it is their private business, and they are the board that decides, for managers to implement. But Ghana is not anybody's business. Ghana is, a country that belongs to all of us, and we all have a stake, whether we are poor or rich. So long as we are citizens, we all have, to some extent, an equal stake, and we deserve to know what our managers are, doing on our behalf. But this government is quite adamant, very, very dictatorial when it comes to matters like these. And that's really unfortunate, but what can we do?
Well, that's the most topical issue today. And like I mentioned earlier, the papers are on a break. But there's a lot to discuss. Today's the last Monday of 2022. God willing, we'll have you again next week, but we will be in a new year. So I just want to find out from you what your highlights of 2022 are.
Well, it's been quite a turbulent year. The biggest of all is the economic crisis that we find ourselves in. And the biggest surprise is that Ken Ofori-Atta is still at post as our finance minister. Certainly parliamentarians have agitated, people have spoken their minds, civil society have engaged with the president and made the point that it is important that at least the finance minister be made to step aside. There have been threats in parliament that government business will not be treated as far as the issues of finance are concerned once the finance minister was still at post. So certainly that's one of the biggest things. And as I said, it's quite surprising that Mr. Ofori-Atta is still at post. It's also quite surprising to see President Akufo-Addo, in the midst of all this economic crisis, still pushing that the National Cathedral be built and still allocating some national resources towards the National Cathedral. It's quite a very, very surprising phenomenon. And you keep asking, does he really care about the plight of the ordinary people? Of course, we on the international front, Russia-Ukraine, is a big development. Whether we agree or not, there's been some implications on the global economy, on the global food supply chain, on the global fertilizer supply chain. And of course, even though we may not be impacted directly in terms of lives, what is happening in Ukraine is quite devastating. To see the number of lives that have been lost because of a debate over a policy whether Ukraine should join NATO or not is quite a very, very disturbing phenomenon. And then, of course, on the media front, remains quite turbulent. Had our lowest ranking this year, moving from the 30th to the 60th, moving from the 3rd in Africa to the 10th in Africa, and having countries like Sierra Leone, the Gambia, Cote d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, all coming ahead of Ghana, has been a very, very disturbing development. I hope that we as journalists, media owners, media managers will do their part to ensure that on our side, we do what we have to do. But the biggest part remains with government. That must commit to improving safety of journalists, ensuring that journalists are safe to do their work, not manipulating the media from the corporate side of things and from the advertising side of things, to ensure that our democracy is strengthened and people can have their say. I think it's been quite a turbulent year, but once we are all alive and kicking, we thank God for that. And those who have departed, we pray that God have mercy on their souls. And so to all media folks, to all journalists, Merry Christmas, and wishing all of us a prosperous new year in advance.
Right, talking of a prosperous new year makes me believe that even though things are dim now, you're hoping for a better 2023. And it's interesting how you touch all the major aspects: local, economy, politics, international, and then you bring it back home to the media where you belong. We claim you every time. But in 2023, obviously we know there's one major thing hanging over our necks, which is the IMF program and how it will impact our economy. It will also be the year before the elections. And it usually is a major one. Even though we have our elections in December, we would see some major machinations, even though we've seen it happening on both, for the two major parties. We're going to see it get a little more intense as we approach 2024. What are your expectations?
Well, you are absolutely right. 2023 perhaps may be even hotter than 2024, because it is the year that I believe the NDC would settle on its presidential candidate, and the MPP would also settle on its presidential candidate. I think the battle within the NDC may not be as tougher as it would be within the MPP. From the NDC, I think it's obvious that President Mahama is a clear front runner, and so it wouldn't be surprising to see him emerge as the candidate for the NDC for 2024. In the MPP, it's not that clear cut. You have, the vice president, you have Alan Tremantin, you have Kennedy Ejapon, you have Kwabena Ejapon, the Agric Minister Uswefrie Akoto, all running. And because these folks are in government, there's going to be a lot of turbulence around. Already we are beginning to see quite a lot of that. Secrets will be revealed. There will be a lot of exposures. The media would be used much more aggressively. And so I think that the biggest thing would be the MPP's processes to elect their flag bearer. And I just hope that it will be done in a very democratic way. The party has always proven to be quite efficient when it comes to matters like these. But certainly the campaign for 2024 would begin in 2023, even apart from the elections of the flag bearers. And of course, we cannot write off the other political parties. I'm sure they will also go through their processes to elect their flag bearers. Already we are hearing that those within the Nkrumah fraternity are planning to come together this time around to have a common front. So the CPP, the PPP, the PNC, and I suppose even the APC as well. And if they are able to do that, I'm sure they would also be a very strong force to contend with. And all that will happen in 2023. The NDC has new executives, even though, yes, the chairman is not new because he was the general secretary. One of the major things has been whether or not they would re-engage at the IPAC processes, which I think is one of the main pillars of our democratic consolidation. And I just hope that with a new leadership, there would be a way to engage with the IPAC processes so that we can have a very fruitful process towards 2024. So yes, politically, 2023 will be a hot season, and we look forward to it.
Right. Looking forward to 2023 in the perspective of President Akufo-Addo is going to be a better year. he says that our economy will bounce back. He made a statement while delivering his Christmas message. And I'll just bring you some highlights. Over the last 3 years, we've been confronted with our own captivity in Babylon moments. We had to ride turbulent storms and we were faced with the unknown. He continues to say, I am happy that in spite of it all, we are beginning to emerge out of the difficulties, which encourages me to say that with hard work, dedication, and continued prudence in the management of the affairs of our nation, we will rise up again. Do you share in the use of the word continued prudence? We've heard you and other people talk about how this government has not done too well when it comes to managing the economy, but the president thinks that they've actually been prudent. Do you agree?
Absolutely not. And I'm not surprised the president says that, because I think that we have a president who perhaps really doesn't feel what the ordinary people feel, and I don't know why. The struggle that people are going through, and if you look at the kinds of things that this government has been doing, it's been the most profligate, government that I have witnessed in my adult life. You've had a president under our economic circumstances, doing all the luxurious chartered flights, a government that, whilst people are struggling, if you talk to ordinary people in communities, even to have one meal a day is a struggle. And yet the president says, I am building a cathedral, and allocating monies, millions of Ghana cedis, to the extent that even when we are confronted with a crisis and are begging IMF for a bailout, the president and the government still make allocation towards the building of the cathedral. When people are complaining, from labor front to civil society to the media to parliament to chiefs, everybody saying that, Mr. President, your government is too big for the kind of situation we find ourselves in, and so trim down your government. What has the government done? Not even a single minister, not even a single appointee, has been made to go. We still have the big size of government that he started with in the second term. And so it's basically a case of feeding the rich with the meager things that the ordinary and the poor people are earning, and they go to the extent of even saying that they are even removing the 100 cedis threshold on e-levy so that they can collect more money from the poor people to subsidize this government, to subsidize people who are well-to-do, people who are doing all the deals, people who are signing all the inflated and bloated contracts, and so on. That's the kind of government we have. A government that clearly doesn't care about the poor people in the rural areas. The person who survives on maybe 100 cedis or 200 cedis a month. So to the extent that even if you are sending 20 cedis or 30 cedis, you have to pay e-levy. That's the kind of government that we have. So, like I said, I'm not surprised that the president appears not to see what is happening and still talking about, being prudent when his government, under his leadership, has been one of perhaps the most wasteful we've had. But, well, it's a democracy. We have 2 more years to go to make a decision. And, fortunately, whether it's going to be MPP or NDC that will win, it wouldn't be President Akufo-Addo anymore.
What do you think is causing that disconnect? Because the media, we've tried. We have been very loud. There are people who have gone on demonstrations. There are people finding creative ways to get the attention of government, its officials, and the president. What exactly may be causing the disconnect?
Well, it's difficult to tell, but maybe it's in the nature of the president and, of course, the people who are around him. It's one thing if you have somebody who has tasted, felt, and lived in poverty, knowing what poverty means, knowing what suffering means, And that's different from somebody who perhaps may not have tasted poverty before, has not lived in poverty before, has not really had anything to do with poverty before. And maybe it's that kind of situation that we find ourselves in, where we have a leader who may not have really lived in poverty, felt poverty before, and has people who are in the same category around him, and therefore things are normal, even when others are struggling. And again, I don't know what people knew. I remember I was news editor at the Chronicle then when Kofi Kumsen made his infamous pronouncement about, his view about President Akufo-Addo and what his leadership would mean for this country. And others like Nyaho Tamaklo have said the same thing. Maybe they knew what they were talking about, but I don't know. But like I said, the only thing that I can relate to is the fact that maybe he doesn't know what poverty means because he's not lived it, and the people around him are in the same situation. They don't know what poverty means, and they've not lived it, so things are normal. Even when people are crying, it's like, well, you can't have a society that is perfect. Yes, all the time there will be poor people. You cannot solve their problem. You cannot deal with their problem. So let's go on. Maybe that's the reason.
Right. So we'll be wrapping up shortly. And let me just find out from you how you're spending the Christmas. Everyone is complaining about the economy. What are the creative ways you're doing this? Maybe someone can pick a cue.
Well, those who know me would say, look, this is a down-to-earth person. Unfortunately for me, again, maybe as a result of background, I am not used to luxury. So I live a normal life where I have to walk to. I would walk to where I have to get my coffee brookman on the roadside. I would do that. When I have to do my awamo, I would do that. And maybe because of that background and bringing up the kids that same way, it puts a little pressure on us. And I think that is really important. You really lose nothing if you can afford to live a life that is normal, comfortable with whatever little resources you have. But of course, when it is possible to also do a night or lunch at Kempinski or wherever,
you wouldn't deny yourself that.
You wouldn't, and you shouldn't do that. I would encourage people under the circumstances to live within their means, take life easy, just go for what you can afford and not what you have to borrow to afford. Of course, if you are among those who have had a haircut, well, just manage. If it becomes too deep, get a Santa on your head, and that should be fine. Yeah, so people should just live within their means. Maybe travel back to the village where cost of living may be quite low, and life should be fine. And
right.
Let's keep speaking and expressing ourselves.
Merry Christmas to you once again, and I hope the season brings you all the joy that you deserve, Suleiman Abraham. And thank you for doing this with us every morning, especially on Mondays on the AM show. Suleiman Abraham is Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa. We're talking about how to spend the holidays. If you don't have any plans for today, the Abri Botanical Garden is the place to be. It's the Joy FM Fright Hall family party in the park, and it's 100 cedis for a family of 6. It's very affordable. We're going to have Kwabna, Kwame Eugene, Perez Music, Kiddy, all in attendance, thrilling you to good music. And we have a special place for fathers for you to relax and enjoy the moment while your kids play and all that. So please do get to the front desk of Joy FM for your ticket, or you can call 0540106466. It's now time for AM Sports.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Prime Take. Today we are sharing the company of the man who supervised Kotoko's participation in the CAF Confederation Cup for the first time. in about 11 years. He did so, overcoming Kariobangi Sharks, overcoming Cotton Sport de Garua, secured that qualification to the group stages. And in that contest, many people have said it was the period Kotoko played arguably one of the best football games they have witnessed. In fact, I was at the stadium to watch them against Nkana FC, and that first half was crazy. They said it was the aggro football that he was playing. He also coached Ashanti Gold, and then he went on to lead the senior national team, the Black Stars, secured qualification to the African Cup of Nations 2021, but he did not supervise that tournament for Ghana. That was when the leadership of Ghana Football Association decided to part company with him. I guess by now you have an idea about the person I'm speaking about. He is Charles Koblan Akono. Thank you very much, CK.
Welcome.
The name, is it Kobna or Koblan?
Koblan. Most of people get it wrong.
What are the name?
Koblan, that's my father's name.
Oh, okay.
My father is not Akono, but is Koblan. So Charles Koblan Akono. The name, my father's name is the middle name.
Oh, okay. But, oh, okay. What about the Akono is your name?
The Akono is my uncle who gave me that name.
You are Charles.
Yeah.
Now we have an idea. What have you been up to?
I've been okay, you know, by the grace of God, surviving and trying to learn a little bit about the game of football, and been out of the country once, twice, and then I'm back. So I'm here chilling, if you feel like it.
But where did you grow up?
Me? Yes. Where I grew up?
Yes.
I was born in Georgia.
Okay.
Grew up in Nungwa, and then obviously Tema was the main place where the hustle started from. You know.
So you're a hustler?
Of course, you don't know. I'm a hustler, still a hustler.
But how did you get into football and not any other sport?
Well, when I was in school, pre-sec Nungwa, precisely, school teams, sports, I used to run 800 meters for the school.
Oh, okay.
And then the game football, it started. But of course, from course, Tema Hasby, I started with Harbour City, first Nungwa Cosmos, Tema Hasby, Harbour City, and then Hartlepool. Hartlepool was the main place I really established myself as a good footballer, and I captained the coast team. Then near Welbeck were my playmates at that time.
Now you've always started as a captain, because we'll get to that point where you captain, because from the coast level you captain the team.
Yeah, it's part of me. You know, I grew up knowing that togetherness was one thing that can make you succeed, you know, and of course always try to get the team together. In the school, I was also in the school team the leader of the team, the captain. And Tema Hasby started with the likes of Ablade Kuma, who were ahead of me at that time. Okay. Then when he left, then I became the captain of the team.
Did you move from Okoye United to Germany?
No, I moved a year to Ashgold.
Oh, okay.
Ashgold, from Ashgold, and I just played a year and then moved to Germany.
And how was that journey like?
It was also a difficult one, you know. I had done well for myself at that time. Ashgold saw me, David Put at then, you know. He signed me, Augustin Ahimfo, Samia J, Yawa Champon, Simado. When the team was transformed from that time. Sam Jonah was then the main person running the Anglo Gold then, you know, and financially they were sound, you know. So we went there and I had a little bit of the professionalism, a little bit touch of it. Because when we went there, everything was different from what I had experienced, you know, before. So it was a good transition from that point before I went to Germany. When I went to Germany, obviously I went at a bad time. My weather was very poor, very bad. February. Yes. I got out of the plane. I wanted to go back because it was too cold in Frankfurt. You know, it was very, very hard. You know, and I couldn't believe I would be able to make it. But if I look back, I have no choice. I have to make it. You know, so
Because you thought that was the turning point of your life.
Yeah. That was it. I had chances upon chances to travel, and it all went bad.
Yes.
You know, we went to Egypt, then under 20, led by Samade,
yes,
as the leader, a coach of the team in the youth tournament under 20. I think we were third, and that is the medal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we were third, bronze, and I had done well. There were agents coming up, you know, thinking that hey, this is the moment. It didn't happen. I was so disappointed. It didn't happen. Rather, those who were not in the picture were taken away, and I was left out. So again, upset, you know, you go down. And then all of a sudden, I was very fortunate. I was then the youngest in the senior national team, the front line.
Yes.
And then I was doing well. Otto Fista then had taken me into the team. It was a magic, you know. At that time, I had also been dropped from the Olympic squad, Barcelona, in 92. And then I came back disappointed, went back to Ashgold, played one match. I was invited to the under-20 national team. We played. Otto Fista saw me, picked me. So those who were then with the Barcelona squad were all then behind. They had to fight to get there.
You've had many disappointments in your life, actually.
Yeah, it's always been part of me, you know, and somehow I get back.
How do you do it?
Yeah. It's the faith and the belief I have in me, and to always understand the work of God, how things work, you know, because where you think you deserve it, you're disappointed, you know, but you don't give up in life.
Tell us about the life in Germany.
Life in Germany was good, ups and downs, you know, in terms of racism at that time was a bit on the high in Germany. I've had encounters where I was almost beaten, you know.
Really?
Yeah. And survived. You go to a restaurant, they don't want to serve you because not the restaurant, but those who are also there to be served.
Oh, okay.
They don't want you to sit next to them, and they behave funny towards you. You know, and so these were challenges that apart from the football aspect of life, the private life was also a difficult one. So you go to a restaurant and you are being looked at a different funny way. You know, they are looking at, what is this monkey doing? You know, that kind of thing. Sometimes you get upset. You know, I've had situations where I was in a train, I wasn't driving then, where I've been attacked by what we call the Black Angels. Those guys they do their, you know, attacked in a way. But all these were part of the journey.
But with all these challenges, how did you rise to the extent that you were even able to captain Roosevelt?
Yeah, I was tough. My attitude changed towards the whites, you know. And
you saw them to be different from
and so I was always, okay, then from there I started learning the language. I went to the president and said, I want to learn the language. You don't go to the president and talk to him like that because he's a crazy man. Tony Bafo will tell you. I went to his office, then he had to bring in some interpreter. I said, I want to learn the language now.
So you speak German?
Yeah, of course.
Can you try something?
I can speak. When you speak, I can speak with you.
Oh, okay. I get it. Which tournament was the first tournament you played for the Black Stars?
94, Tunisia.
Tunisia 94.
94, 96, 98, and 2000.
How was it like in the national team?
To be honest with you, where I really enjoyed most was when I was with under-20s, when we went to Australia.
Oh, okay.
And that was, I think, my best moment as far as the national team is concerned. I enjoyed, the group was good, we were very good together, we had fun, we enjoyed, you know, the likes of Augustina Himfo, Benogu.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
They would crack some jokes in.
But you were always a serious person.
I was. You wouldn't want to laugh. But you go and hide and laugh. It was funny. You know? And I wish I had that group till you know, like you don't come. It was fun. And when we get on the field of play, we know what time it is.
Yes.
We were there to deliver. Yes. You know, we were very serious on the field of play, but off the field of play too. We had fun. It was fun. It was Like,
how was that different from the national team, the Black Stars itself?
No, you know, the Black Stars were maybe, if I should say, too serious, and we had a lot of egos.
Oh, okay.
And there wasn't anybody who was
lighting up the atmosphere.
who changed that or control those egos. You know, it looks like the players were too bigger than the national team. The national team itself. Yeah, and truly, we had big players. We had those who opened doors for some of us. Yes. The likes of Anthony Yeboah, Abedi Pele, Kwame Ayew was even somebody, you know, I highly respected till today, you know. So we needed somebody who could
lighten the
and it was all
egos.
Yeah, to control the egos, you know, manage it.
So do you just subscribe to those who say that the Black Star squad of 92 to 98, the atmosphere within the team was very toxic?
Yeah, I think it started from 92. I wasn't there. I was part of the qualification, but I was not part of the final squad of the tournament. And I think it started from there because there were a lot of issues which, when we start to talk about it, we won't finish. and it's course it continued till when I of course the atmosphere was not the best one, you know, and I was surprised. You know, I personally was young. I was looking up to some of the players, big names, and you could clearly see there wasn't that kind of bonding, team spirit bonding.
How did that affect you in the team?
I was disappointed, but I was just focused on what I had to do on the field of play. You know, it didn't really bother me, but I was surprised to have seen guys who sort of have opened doors for all of us. You know, and again, it might not be the players, but the people around it couldn't control it very well, couldn't manage it very well.
Was the disunity that obvious in the team?
I will tell you today, it was clear, it was obvious. It wasn't, you know, for instance, I think our first one was against Guinea. I didn't know nothing. We got into the dressing room, then I was called by Maestro. Me, I think, Odati Lamte, and somebody else, that some people were not going to play. I didn't know. We had made a squad.
Was it 96?
No, 94.
Oh, okay.
94, you know. And then we were called because we knew who were going to play the team. And then when we got there, something happened. Some were not going to play. And I was like, what? I was shocked. You know, but I didn't get it. I didn't understand everything. I was, like I said, I was too young to have, you know, to have got everything right in my head at that time. And my focus was, hey, I've gotten a chance to play in the... You know, so my
after hustling all the way for
I won't allow anything. I was just focusing on what I had to do, and seriously, I was always thinking of what I could do to help the team. You know, if I had to put my head on the listen to be, I was going to do it. Yeah, so, but I'm sure now, you know, we've gone past all those things, and probably some of them will say, it wasn't necessary, you know, because if we had got it right, if we had gotten it right, united, the bonding of the team, I think would have been to the World Cup, to the World Cup before the likes of our peers and others.
Many of you always say that.
Charlie?
But you were able to rise within that toxic atmosphere to become the captain of the Black Stars. How did that happen?
You see, I think somebody like Sam Johnson, Yao Prekun, Udati Lamte, Azika Sari, and the likes were ahead of me because they played in 92. Okay. When I got into the team, I was regular, I was consistent. I never went out of the team. And some of them, as a result of injury or something, were out of the team. If you ask me how I became the captain, I think that is one of the reasons why. Because I played 4 Nation Cup continuously.
Oh, wow.
You know, 94, 96, 98, 2000.
I see.
So by the time I was at I think the 4th year or the year.
The 4th tournament.
I was then a big name in the team.
Yes.
You couldn't.
And in fact, in Ghana.
You couldn't, and I was present most of the time.
Yeah.
So, yes, we had the maestro. The maestro was going out, and if you look around, and I think the players also who agreed in that sort of manner, agreed, and you know, I got that chance to be captain of the team.
And when you became captain, you replaced Abu-Baidoo.
Yeah.
How was it like?
Don't ask my daughter.
I always ask that question.
It was too big.
It is obvious.
Yeah, it was too big, you know, and maybe, you see, and I don't think we still do it. To become a captain of a national team is not easy. In Europe, what they do is they will nurture you into it.
Oh, okay.
They will educate you. They will tell you what to say, you know, and I was a young boy. I didn't know nothing. Maybe I could have also been clever enough to go to Pele.
Yes.
And ask him, you know,
to learn the ropes.
To learn the ropes and even how to manage it, the situation. And you know, at that time, there were a lot of issues with us, sponsorship and all those things. One of the things I did, which was okay, when we played, we hosted the AFCON with Nigeria.
Yeah.
I brought in Puma. I had a personal sponsorship with Puma. Puma was able to give to those who didn't have sponsorship. I think Apia had his own, Sami Kufuor also had his own. And then the rest who didn't have it, I was able to bring them on board. And plus they gave even some money, you know, on top of it. These are some of the petty things. And then in terms of negotiating of money and all those, I remember we played a match on Saturday or Sunday. By a day before the match, I was at the minister's office with, I think, Kufuor and somebody to
ask for bonuses.
Who is this? I'm not used to these things, you know. And these were things that could easily affect you as a player.
Yeah.
My mind and everything had to be on how to lead the team to play on the field of play. Not that the other stuff shouldn't be part of me. You know, and I had so many issues. And then also, I wouldn't say a mistake, I put on the 10 shirt because I used to wear the 11. Put on the 10 shirt and I had calls from everywhere. People I didn't even know. I know my 10 shirt and say,
You didn't even know you were wearing number 10?
I knew. I think I opted for it.
Oh, okay.
Because now Pele was not there. Nobody was willing to
take up.
But I think I was very used to the 11 shirt. Yeah. Then I was very, very comfortable in it. No, I'm not talking about superstitions.
No, I get. Maybe you are wearing a very big shirt.
Yeah.
You're going into the shoes of one man who was deemed so huge that it was a responsibility you're going to carry.
And like I said, all these things I need to be nurtured into it, you know, to be taught.
What did you do to ease the tension that you met at the national team when you became captain?
Of course, me and Kufuor had always been very close in terms of what ought to be done, what we have to do, sponsorship, and it was always like fight, you know, because we were not happy. And sometimes I think one of the things that maybe let us down, we took a lot of issues in our own hands.
Oh, okay.
Whilst we had to allow money because we felt they weren't doing what they had to do, and so you know, Kufuor went to was he Burkina Faso or whatever, and he was sent home.
Yeah, I remember.
And if you look at the issues, these are issues that Kufuor doesn't need to do it. The manager had to do it, but because they were not doing it,
he had to do it.
He had to speak about it, and then you'll be victimized if you do these things, and it's been a problem. But it has changed. I think, if I'm very honest, from Nyantichi's era, those things changed a bit, and it improved the team.
And tell me briefly about I remember that within that period, in advance we were pretty young and we were following the national team. There were so many things. In fact, we were watching black and white television in the beach.
You were in Norway.
But I do, I was in the north. But I do recall some of the interesting stuff that surrounded you not being the captain of the Black Stars again. Do you recall?
That was also mismanagement. You know, I'm not supposed
to.
Because
I can recall that. I remember I was pretty young, but I do recall the reports were that you had seen the story on.
I wasn't told. In fact, we were going to a match in Germany, Wolfsburg, and I was the captain. Choked at the back, watching my TV, you know, relaxing, and then I had a call from BBC, whoever it was, but it was an English number. That the squad is out. Are you aware you are not part of the squad? I choked. I was shocked. I said, no, I was trying to play tough.
Yeah.
I was like, what? And truly, then after talking to the journalist, I called one or two people and then I asked and said, yes. I said, what happened? So even if that was the case, wouldn't they have called me just to inform me? So I still wanted to play. I still wanted to play.
So you were forcibly retired from the
Yeah. I mean, I'm saying that I was the captain of Wolfsburg. You understand me?
Yes.
And one way or the other, maybe they were not satisfied with me as the captain of the team. But I could still be part of the team. You understand? I don't have a problem. I could still be part of them and contribute in a certain way. You understand me? Rather, they decided not to call me, not to tell me. I was outside from the squad, and it became, I was hurt. Telling you, I was hurt. It hurt me so bad.
The Black Stars has always been full of captaincy issues.
Yeah. And I think in our era, Kufuor was able to, soften a little bit because he was also big at that time then. Okay. So me and him had a very common understanding. We were working towards sources for the team to be okay. Even we tried the likes of Tuadu and others join the team. It was as a result of our effort. Gerard Asamoah also came, we spoke to them. I spoke to them. Kufuor, Anthony Bafo was also involved. At that time, Anthony hadn't come there. So he would call me, call Kufuor, and then on the phone we talk. And not just them. There were Francis Diko.
Yes.
I brought him to the...
really?
Single-handed. I think there was a time former of Nyantichi, the president, even said it. And so we were like today, where you have the likes of Lamte, Tariq Lamte, and others coming. They were interested, so we were approaching them on a secret, So again, it is how we go about things. It is how we, and you can imagine those who were in charge then.
Yes.
The same way they were with Pele, Yeboah, and all, and then the thing became an issue. It's exploded because they weren't managed well. Imagine I was bitter then when I was out from the squad. I spoke about it, and if I had some feelings today, I say I'm sorry. I've always apologized. I was hurt though. I was really, really hurt. I couldn't believe it that my own people could do this to me. However, I kept my cool and everything went on. I went ahead to become coach. I haven't coached mine.
I'm coming to the coaching. At what point did you realize that you could become a coach?
Well, I had a friend who is now a big agent, and he had stopped playing. We were together. We played together in Cologne. He moved to. He's even here in this picture. Yeah. Michael Beck.
I see.
Yeah, and so he asked me, Charlie, can we do something? And at that time I was still playing. I was in Denmark then. So we started a little bit of an academy stuff, and so he came one day, and when we come in, and I said, I will take over. I will do it. So he was standing aside. He was looking at me, watching me what I was doing. I said, when we finished, I said, have you coached before? I said, no. He said, you could do this.
Try it.
So try it. He really encouraged me. So when I finished, I'm playing this, and the first thing I did was to do the Lansah's B in Germany, UEFA B. Yeah. I did it, and thank God, in German, I passed. I passed the test, and I had the Lansah's. I came down here. In fact, I started 11 before going back again to do the course, and then till now.
Thank you so much for staying on the AM show with me, Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah. It's now time to bring you our Drive Safe for today. Remember, it's the season where a lot of merrymaking happens, and also you need to be very careful. Please don't drink and drive. Let's go for our Drive Safe with Benjamin Akapo.
Hello there. Welcome to another installment of Drive Safe with me, Benjamin Akako, where we all get to stay very aware, cognizant of driving safe on our roads to ensure that we are safe and that other motorists, pedestrians and others also stay safe. Every day we lose so many lives when it comes to the carnage on our roads. It can be prevented if we all try to be more careful. And that's why we have this segment, Drive Safe. We're back at Top Tech Transport and Logistics. But before we get into today's topic and engage our guest, so you think you know, here is today's road signal. Do you think you know what this means? All right, so at the tail end of today's segment, we'll get into the meaning of that road segment. But on that note, let me say hello once more to Cecil Gabra.
Hello, Ben.
He's CEO here. He's the boss of Top Tech Transport and Logistics. How are you doing? How is business? Top Tech.
Well, it's a little bit difficult, but we are still sailing
What's
through.
making it difficult?
Well, of course, it's difficult for companies to understand that if you have drivers, you should train them. You should train your own staff that you've given them vehicles. You know, we are into security training as well. You need to train your own staff to be security conscious. What about your home security? We do all those training, but people don't understand, okay?
They think we don't need this.
They will think they don't need it. I just gave some lectures at my Rotary Club that those who are leaving their homes who put that big padlock are the victims, okay? Because you're telling everybody that I'm not at home. Of course, thieves are very intelligent than us. Yes, that's what they believe. So if you put a big padlock behind your gate, then you've told everybody that I'm not home, you can come, okay? So these are some of the things that we do. And then that's the training we give, that don't use the padlock. You can use what we call the yield lock. Right. Look around, if there's nobody there, put a key there. So that's a tip for security at home. And you need to come over for more training.
Security tips. I think next time we come to, we'll focus on security as well. But let's go back to what we were talking about the last time, which has to do with the causes of road crashes. We spoke about the motorbike, tricycle, bicycle scenario and how a lot of them are not using their lights when they ought to be doing so. But there's another dynamic to this conversation. You would notice that when it comes to the tricycles, a lot of them are also causing accidents. How? By frustrating the heck out of other motorists. They are going so slowly, maybe they've piled, and in fact, I don't know whether they don't overload their vehicles, their tricycles, because you see it's packed so high, it makes them so slow, and especially when they are in a place where there's only enough space for one vehicle at a time. They block the other vehicles behind them. People are honking their horns, people are trying to get past them, and before you realize it, accident.
Well, that's very true, right? And that is why I know for a fact that the current Minister for Greater Accra is doing everything to take them off the road, right? It is not an easy task because he needs a document to do that. The airline doesn't specify that they should not come on that major road, okay? But then we could have a document or a supplementary to work it out to take them off. They are quite a nuisance. Now, every road has, let me say, we have our speed limits. If you're driving in Accra, the maximum speed limit is 50 kilometers per hour.
That is within the city?
Yes, in the city, right. When you're driving on the highway, you are traveling from Accra to, let's say, Cape Coast, maximum 80 kilometers per hour. And then on the motorway, 100 kilometers per hour. But this is a situation where the tricycle cannot even match up the 50 kilometers per hour. Maximum with their load could be about 20 kilometers per hour.
I'm sure some go at about 10. I mean, it's maddening.
Yes, and because of the load, they cannot drive at the edge of the road. Okay, so they will rather force and be in the middle of the road or take over the entire lane. Honestly speaking, if you are going to work and you have timed yourself that look by 8 o'clock you get to work, they are quite a nuisance and something must be done, okay? Have you realized that they don't have mirrors?
They don't. A
Yes.
lot of them don't.
As well as the Okada. If you ask them why, they will tell you that if the mirrors are there, they cannot maneuver. But you need the mirrors to even look at your side, or the back. And then also...
So that in itself is an illegality.
Very, it is.
And we're not addressing it.
We are not addressing it. And then nobody must be seated by that tricycle. But you find the guy riding, and then somebody else is seated on the side with one leg somewhere else.
Why they usually do that with the leg.
There is no space for them, so you need to raise one leg, okay?
Right.
Which means that the center of gravity of that tricycle will not hold, okay? Because when he brings his leg down, it will affect the weight as well as the balance of everything. So they are quite a nuisance. Something must be done as soon as possible. But we don't have any current law to say they cannot use any road or any major road.
So just to be clear, we're not saying that they don't deserve, because they also have a means of transport. They also deserve to be there. But the problem is they are creating a nuisance. So how do we deal with it? Two things I want to run by you. What do we do? First of all, the weights they carry. And I don't know, like you said, this may be a loophole in LI2180, because I don't know whether there are any dynamics when it comes to how much weights they can carry, because that will also determine how quickly they can go or how slowly they will move. The second bit is, can we have lanes allocated to them, for example? Is that something we should be thinking of as a country?
Well, let me start with the lanes, okay? In other developed countries, we have bicycle lanes, we have lanes for slower vehicles such as the tricycles. But then here we are, even our BRT, we are suffering. We don't have any dedicated for them. And I always talk about it, that it was quite a useless venture to introduce BRT in Ghana. Now,
talking of the Ayalolos and
yes,
when we don't have designated lanes.
Yes, if you don't have any segregated road, why do you worry yourself to bring in that huge bus, very expensive bus? Now they are struggling with structure because we don't have any segregated road. Okay, so we also don't have any road for these tricycles, and they are struggling with trotros as well as the Ayalolos and so on. Right. And that is quite a difficult situation. We don't have any lanes at all for them. Now, talking about the issue of overloading, yes, there are laws on overloading. I mean, this tricycle, if
pardon the interjection, if you're in your saloon car and you have, say, 6 people in there, you can be stopped because you are taking way more people than is allowed. So same should apply to them, right?
See, yes, that is why when you look at a motorcycle, tricycle, right, if you go deep in it, it will tell you that, look, this is 2cc, which means that the cubic capacity must not exceed a certain amount, right? Now, do our law enforcers know this? If they know, they will have to weigh the whole water or whatever is in the tricycles, because if they're in front of you and they cannot go, it is not the case that they cannot go, it is because of the overload which is affecting the equipment, which is the tricycle, okay? Some of them have very low capacity and therefore they cannot be on the major road, and that is what the Greater Accra Minister is pushing for, and that must happen. I'm supporting it, that they must not be on the major road. They can be somewhere in the community, and that is what I'm also advocating for, especially those garbage guys, the tricycles that will use the motorway to empty their tricycles or their buckets. Okay, from Accra they are going to Pong to do that, and that is so bad. And that is also causing a lot of us. So what I am thinking of is that if it is here at La, okay, they cannot cross the major road. We should give them a central point where they can offload their garbage, and then we'll have a bigger vehicle that will come and pick all away and use the motorway instead of us allowing them to use the tricycles on the motorway, because the laws on the motorways are also there. No tricycles must be on the motorway, no bicycles, no human beings must cross the motorway. We have laws there. No motors that are below a certain capacity, that is mopeds.
A scooter, for example.
Yes, they cannot be on the motorway and so on. That is below 2.5 cubic capacities. They cannot use the motor. But what do we see? Human beings are using it. Horse riders are using it. They are crossing, and so and the motorway. Yes, the motorway is destroyed. Right. So talking about tricycles. We don't have a lane, they are struggling. But the other issue is that most of them are breadwinners of their families. It is better for you to carry this water to go and give it to Auntie Mansa to get something for your family than to be an armed robber. Right. So we need to look at it. The situation is quite dicey, but we must also give them laws to go accordingly so that you and I will be free from any accident.
Thank you so much, Cecil. Thanks for the education. Hopefully you've learned something from today's segment. This has been part 2 of our getting into the causes of road crashes. But right before we end, so you think you know, here's the answer to today's quiz question. And that's the answer. If you didn't know, now you know. My name is Benjamin Akapo. Thank you for joining us for another installment of Drive Safe. Have a good day.
Once again, thank you so much for staying on the AM show. It's a time of love, sharing, and merrymaking for many, but for others, it's a time of pain, conflict, and hardship. I'm talking about what's happening in Bawku, and so far we know that over 10 lives have been lost to recent clashes there, the latest being over the weekend, which claimed a man, his children, and his mother. Regional correspondent Albert Sori joins us via Zoom with more to share on this. Hello, Albert. Good morning to you. The last time we spoke, it wasn't clear exactly what the police was doing because it was tight-lipped on the matter. Have you been able to get any word from the police, and what more can you report?
Yes, Bernice. So the situation has not changed. The police continues not to give us any information as far as Bawku is concerned. They feel that for security reasons, they have to keep this information to themselves. The municipal police commander refuses to speak because he says it is not his job. The regional police PRO, who the commander says is mandated to speak to us, also says that he doesn't have information to give us. So far, the information we get is from our sources on the ground, and we try to confirm from multiple sources, and that is how we are able to report the information.
Interesting. There were some 2 persons who were injured over the weekend. Do we have any updates on how they are faring?
Yeah, so their situation was critical, and at the moment, they are still on admission. Yesterday, there were more injuries to some 2 persons. 3 people were also killed yesterday, and these 3 included a man and his wife. One of the injured yesterday was the child of these 2 parents who died. One more person, who is a woman, was also killed yesterday. And so over the weekend, 2 days ago and yesterday, we witnessed more killings. The reports we also have from Bawku indicate that there have been a lot of gunshots, mostly in the night, even at curfew hours. And most of the residents of Bawku are worried, and they don't understand why these shootings are still going on, even though security, like the military and police details, are all on the ground. They feel that something is not adding up, because if the security is on the ground They don't expect all the firing that has been going on. They don't expect even the killings and the injuries that people, are getting out of being shot by people who, up to now, we do not know have been identified or not. So, for the residents of Bawku, it has been very, very, very sad for them. Yesterday, Christmas Day, and they had to spend Christmas in curfew because by 8 p.m., everybody in Bawku is expected to be indoors, and then they are only allowed to be outside of their homes at 5 a.m. So that's how Christmas is looking like for the residents of Bawku.
Albert, this latest incident, which happened yesterday, is it in any way related to what occurred on Saturday? And did it happen in the same community? Or it's a retaliative action?
So that much we cannot tell. This actually happened in a different vicinity, so we cannot tell if they are related. But the issue with Bawku is that a lot of the killings are no longer even adding up, if you look at it, because 2 days ago, the people who were killed were told were neither Kusasi and they were not Mampusi. So they are not members of any of the factions involved in the conflict. So the questions many people in this region are asking is why they were killed and who are the people who are behind these killings. Yesterday, we haven't yet been able to identify the people who were killed, whether they belonged to the factions or not, but they wouldn't be related, most likely, because yesterday's incident happened in a totally different suburb of Bawku.
Right, Albert, we'll leave it here for now. Albert Sori is our Upper East correspondent, bringing us some details to what's occurring in Bawku. Really disturbing indeed. Well, we've been joined on the phone by Reverend Dr. Ernest Ejujemfi, who is chairman of the National Peace Council, and Amadou Hamza Zanga, who is MCE in one of the areas in Bawku. Good morning to you, gentlemen. Thank you for joining the program.
Good morning. Yeah, good morning.
Right. Let me start with you, Mr. Zanga. We have reported 2 separate incidents of violence leading to death over the weekend. The police is not really able to give us much information, but what do you know with regards to these 2 incidents?
Yes, I want to start by thanking the President of the Republic of Ghana for the wonderful work he's been doing as far as the peace process in Bawku is concerned. I also seize this opportunity to thank the securities for doing their work. Even though there is a lot of work they need to do in Bawku, I must admit that. But if I hear you say the police could not provide you with the needed information, what exact information do you require from the police that they could not provide you? Hello?
Hello. Yes. So my colleague wanted more information with regards to. Yeah, I'm about to get there, Mr. Zanga. For example, we know that, or we are told that for Saturday's incident, the people involved were Buzangas. They didn't belong to any of the factions in the feud in Bawku. But for what happened yesterday, we don't know who these people are. Have their identities been established? Do we know exactly what led to their killing?
Yes, it will surprise you that the people are my neighbors. There is no single house between myself and my house, their house. They're just right by my house. And I think I heard a gunshot very early in the morning at around the hours between 4:30, 4:45, thereabout. And I was surprised when I heard the gunshots that I had to call on my military men who were on duty with me. Apparently, they said they were on duty to protect my life and that they cannot move away and leave me. What we can do is to look for other people, the other military officers. And so I decided to call their commanders. Before they got here, in fact, things haven't been easy. They entered in a house very close to me and decided to do the massacre. They killed them in cold-blooded. One, Al-Hassan, who is a man, I think he leads prayer. It's an open mosque that they pray. And apparently when the sisters and then the wife heard it, they shouted. The people were completely in military uniform. I had peeped in the window and I saw them. I saw them with my eyes. They were in military uniform. And I can tell you that I'm not giving a fabrication. They were in complete military uniform. And so I was surprised that military people would have gone into an area like my area and decided to shoot at innocent souls who have never been involved. I have known Al-Hassan since childhood, and I have known the family. None of them holds even a cutlass. They have never been involved whatsoever in the conflict. They killed, they shot the wife. The wife is alive. They shot the younger sister, Hawa. The younger sister is alive. They shot the daughter. They shot other people there and killed them. And so when they were going, the house near to my house again, they shot at somebody who performed his ablution and was about to come out to the mosque for prayers. And shot his cow. And so totally you can get about 5 people dying on that very day, on that very Saturday. The rest, I had to take my vehicle at that dawn between the hours of 5 o'clock, 5, and I rushed with them to the police station, to the Presby Hospital, which is very closer to my house. And that is indeed what happened on that day. As I talk to you, I have been able to work because they were on critical condition, and the doctors recommended the transfer to Tamale and to Bolga. And indeed, yesterday I was able to organize the ambulance, and they took the 3 of them, the deceased wife, the deceased younger sister, and then the deceased daughter. As I talk to you, they are currently on admission in the various hospitals in Bolgatanga and in Tamale. That is exactly what happened on Saturday.
Mr. Zanga, this must have been a really harrowing thing for you to witness. Yes. But you spoke about this Al-Hassan who's been killed now. You say he is not a violent person. He's never held a cutlass. You know him. You can vouch for him.
Yes.
Is it a case that you suspect that these persons you say were clad in military regalia? Came there. Is it your suspicion that they came there thinking that Al-Hassan may be part of one of the factions fomenting trouble?
You said, pick your question again. Let me get you clear.
I'm asking if your suspicion is that the military people came there because they may suspect that Al-Hassan may be part of the factions, one of them fomenting trouble.
Al-Hassan, I know him for so long.
Is that your suspicion? Is that your suspicion? Do you suspect?
I actually don't want to delve much into that, but I can assure you that Al-Hassan lives in my vicinity. Al-Hassan is my neighbor. Al-Hassan is a Malam who is going around and looking to get his daily bread. I have never seen Al-Hassan involved himself in any conflict in Bawku whatsoever.
Yeah, Mr. Zanga, I understand that. My question...
Who was the last to kill, has never in my life involved himself in a conflict of that sort.
My question is, why do you think the military was there? Because you're vouching for him, I'm wondering if you are thinking that the military came there because of such suspicion.
The military, listen to me. I am telling you, some people who alleged to be military personnel.
Okay.
Were wearing military, but they're not the real military.
All right. Okay. So have you heard from the military commander in your area? Because
he came to me. Okay. The police commander was here. The 2 of them were in here.
Okay.
They saw the incident. They saw the people. I have.
And is he able to account for his men in the area? Does he know where they all went on the said day?
Absolutely. That is exactly what he's telling me.
Okay.
And that is what the divisional police commander Adamu Stili also told me.
Right.
Yes.
So what's the situation like now, seeing that this was very close to your doorstep?
Very, very close, man. So I'm wondering. And that's why I am trying to find out from the military and the police commanders what is happening in Bawku. Look, I'm not talking because they are my neighbors. I must be worried because they are my neighbors. I am worried because some innocent souls in every part of Bawku have been killed in that cold manner. I'm wondering. The life of every single person in Bawku matter to me as a municipal chief executive. Yesterday, they went to an area which is not closer to my area. They equally killed a woman and a husband, and they moved to the next house to kill another lady there. Previously, last week, an old man was killed, and his son was shot at. His son didn't die on the spot. The son was taken to Vineyard Hospital and later died. This is complete violence with impunity. The lives of Kusasi, the lives of Mampusi, the lives of Mushi, the lives of business matter to the people of Bawku. We want them alive. We do not want any other person to die. Why is it that I'm asking this question? There are security apparatus in Bawku. These heinous crimes keep on happening and visiting on the citizens and the natives of Bawku. I want to find out.
Right, Mr. Zanga, I'll give you some time to just sip on some water. I'll come back to you to find out what MUSEC and RECSEC is doing about the situation. But let me bring in the chairman of the National Peace Council, who is also on the program. He's been listening in, actually, Reverend Dr. Ernest Ejujemfi. Good morning to you, Rev. I'm sure you've heard what Mr. Hamza has to say. You are with the Peace Council, and I know that there's been a lot of effort in getting peace back in Bawku. What are your immediate thoughts about these incidents?
Well, thank you very much for having me on the program. I think that...
sorry, Rev, I can hardly hear you. Can you kindly speak up a bit?
Thank you very much for having me on your program. Right. The challenge we have is that the longer this conflict continues, the more avenues criminals are likely to come into the situation. And from what he is saying now, the impression I have is that there are some other people who have infiltrated into the community who are doing these things. And it's because the conflict is on, these criminals can also come in and do all the things that are happening. My view is that we should be able to get the Kusasi and the Mampusi leadership together, especially between the Bokunaba and the Nairi. Whatever means we have to adopt to get these two top chiefs together to agree to talk to their people to cease fire is a critical thing that we need now. If we're able to get them to get their people to cease fire, then it becomes easier for the military and the security apparatus to fish out these criminals who have infiltrated the system. If they don't cease fire, then we're going to have all these guys running around killing people innocently. And it will be difficult to hold anybody responsible because it appears that the two communities are doing this, whereas it may not be coming from them. So these are my immediate comments.
Right, Rev, I appreciate that in conflicts, criminals and other elements, could even be people with links to terrorist groups, taking advantage of this. But in all the incidents we have heard, no item has been picked, no robbery has taken place. And so it's quite curious, you know, you're just wondering whether these are really criminal elements or persons involved in the real conflict. But let's talk about the work of the National Peace Council. We know that the IGP and some interested persons and parties and organizations were in the area about 2 months ago or 3 months ago to try and foster peace among the feuding factions. In fact, I spoke to Dr. Adam Bodnar, a security analyst, who is saying that, like you have just shared, the longer this stays, the probability of it assuming different dimensions from the earlier chieftaincy conflict becomes possible. for the National Peace Council, what are the real efforts that have been made in ensuring that Bawku returns to peace?
Well, from the angle of the National Peace Council, a lot of work is going on there now. Currently, we have a lot of assistance from USAID to the Regional Peace Council to deal with these matters. And so there are a lot of activities, a lot of engagement still going on. But as I said, until we get the top leaders to agree, recently we heard the Kumasi talking about moving out of inter-ethnic committee. That is a major group that helps us to resolve the issues. And so we're talking to them to come back, and also talking to the Mampusi side that they should get all their people to come back to the table. It's the only means by which we can get this issue resolved. And so we are putting in a lot of effort into making sure that the Inter-Ethnic Peace Council, Peace Committee works. And the Regional Peace Council has been mandated. Currently, we have one of our board members from Accra who is there assisting the Regional Peace Council to ensure that they can get this resolved. And I think that generally, when things are calm, it's then easier for the Peace Council to come in. When they're still fighting and firing of guns, it becomes difficult for us. Ours is when the security forces are able to bring some calmness into the area, then it makes our negotiating work easier. When they're still firing, it's difficult for us to move in because we are not military, we are not the police. Ours is to talk to people, and we need that moment of security and safety for our people to operate effectively.
Rev, this faction you say that wanted to exit the committee, were there any reasons giving?
Well, from what we heard from their leader, he thinks that the leader on the Mampusi side was not cooperating as much as they had expected. And so these are the things that we'll be talking to them about. We had recommended some time ago to them that if some of the parties are not responding as much as possible, then that party should probably nominate new people to serve so that they can get the full participation of the people. So those are the things we're trying to do, because if we can get that committee together, it's been on for years, and that has been the group that has helped us to bring stability to the place. And so we think that getting the ethnic group together, committee together, is the best way to deal with these matters, because then you are asking the teams themselves to negotiate among themselves what they think is the best way to deal with the situation.
I appreciate your time.
I want to make an intervention also, please.
Oh, okay, please go ahead.
Yes, I just from what the Reverend is talking about, I think it's the best way to go. If the two factions are not talking together, how then do we expect they will be peaceable? How? So I am saying that there must be an immediate action, an intervention to ensure that the Kumasi faction is brought back onto the peace committee. And in fact, look, the efforts that we have actually initiated since last year will be delayed. I have been able to mobilize resources. We've been able to move them out to Bolgatanga for them to have a two-way election, a training on area. We've moved to Tamale. We are now on making sure that we mobilize the youth on both sides to move to Bolga or Tamale for another workshop, for us to see how we can how we can negotiate, we can mediate between the two factions and bring lasting solutions to Bawku. But we cannot continue to go on with this impunity.
Right.
I have given you those scenarios. For example, there were other people that were killed. So many people were killed in Bawku. You cannot even mention the names of those people. A woman was murdered. A woman was murdered in Babungari. This woman, apparently, the information I gathered was that people also wore military uniform and they got there. That is what I am getting. Those are the information that comes to me as the chairman of the Municipal Security Council. One old man who was murdered, and I told you the son died later in the hospital, Baba Salam. I can now figure the name. It's completely nonsense. We don't have to do that. Why should we begin to kill ourselves again in this country? I am seriously working on development project in Bawku to propel the needed development that Bawku is lagging over the years. And that is a period for 1 year are not able to do proper developmental agenda for the people of Bawku. The government of Ghana is stressing so much that the desire to get the people of Bawku the needed development projects that we need as a municipality. Government has gone to look for funding from the World Bank, a loan facility to actually raise the standards of Bawku from its current status to a more modernized urban city. The program is running and for 35 municipal assemblies. Bawku happens to be one of the few assemblies in the country that is benefiting from this facility. Millions of Ghana cities pouring in and redesigning the Bawku market. I'm trying to make sure I construct roads for the people of Bawku, provide them with water, give them necessary electricity to be able to do their daily activities. And this impunity keep on going. I think that there's a need for central government to take a holistic approach of this whole thing. People are running away from their homes from Dadure. People have vacated their residence in Zongo. Other communities where I live, a lot of people have moved out of those areas. What is happening?
Mr. Zanga,
for us to do something about it. The military actions alone in Bawku cannot. There is no 100% security in that. You cannot get 100% security. And those loopholes, Kusasis are losing, Mapuches are losing, majority of the people, Moshes are losing, business are losing. Everybody is losing. There's a need for us to come on the board and talk to each other to find lasting solutions to end this particular needless conflict.
Mr. Hamza, Zanga, please, I'll ask you to catch your breath a bit. Clearly, we understand your frustration and we can feel it in your voice. But let me come back to you, Rev. Mr. Hamza has responded to the next question that I had for you, but I want your response to it because Dagbong is a classic example. We saw what happened there. The president even went there with the installment of the new Yana, and there was a lot of celebration. There was a lot of pomp and pageantry. So we know that there is an end to conflict. It is possible.
It's possible.
How, Rev, are you on the line, Rev?
Yes.
Right. How would you assess the central government's posturing towards Bawku over the years? And what would your advice be, looking at the Dagbong example, on how the first gentleman of this land can possibly intervene to ensure that there's lasting peace in Bawku?
Well, as far as I know that the president has spoken to the two big chiefs and he told them his position as far as this case is concerned and how they need to resolve that. So there's been a lot of attempt. But I think that while we're talking to the top people should be ready to talk to those under them, to say that, look, let's put our arms, let's talk, let's resolve this matter. Besides that, I think that the problem is not only with the president or the House of the National Peace Council or the municipal chief executive. This problem requires the whole nation. We have to get the NCC to do education of the public. We must get the House of Chiefs to come in because these are two top chiefs who are fighting among themselves. They should be able to come in. We need to get the CSOs who are working in those areas to put in all the effort. The security agencies must also be retooled to look at how they are looking at it. It requires everybody on board. We cannot be one agency alone to deal with this matter. We will not get around it. The Peace Council has been there for several years. The last 2 years, we've been moving in and out, and it's costing the nation a lot of money. Everybody must be involved. The National Media Commission must get involved. Those two FM stations there must be held responsible for some of the things they do over there. So,
and what are some of those things they do?
There are the two stations belong to the two different factions.
All right.
And so everybody is doing his own thing. The Media Commission must intervene. And sometimes we think that they should shut down those two stations for a while. You know, so that nobody begins to fund all the things that are going on. There's a need for everybody to be involved. There are also other tribal groups outside Bawku, some in Accra, some in Kumasi, who are also fueling all the things going on out there. How many people in Bawku have got money to buy guns and cartridges? There are people who are funding all those, and that we need to deal with all these matters. And that is why I say that It requires the whole nation. Everybody who can help us must help us to deal with this matter. We can sit back and expect only one agency to deal with it. It is not possible. So we need everybody to, the media must do proper education. We should not take position and just report on the matter. How do we educate the people to understand that we cannot kill ourselves as Ghanaians?
Right.
At the end of the day, we can't continue like this. And all of us in this matter, everybody is frustrated. You can't leave Accra, go to Bawku, you come back, you go again. And the last time we were there, we thought that this issue had been resolved. We left the place, 2 hours later, people were killed. And so you don't know what to do. What else can we do?
Right, Rev.
So we are asking everybody who can help us to help bring stability to the place. Like the MCE said, I mean, the development of Bawku is gradually coming down. Shops are closed, hospitals are closed. Even my own church, my pastor in Bawku, has relocated to Wa. He said, you can't stay there. You know, it's frustrating for all of us to be dealing with this matter. And I think that everybody who can help us, who can talk to people, who can help in mediating this issue, must come in and help us to deal with this matter.
We appreciate your time this morning, Reverend Dr. Ernest Ejujemfis, Chairman of the National Peace Council. Earlier, you heard the MCE for Bawku, Mr. Hamza, there, sharing his thoughts with us. We will be monitoring the situation there and bring you up to speed with whatever happens. We'll take a quick breather. When we come back, we'll delve into our conversation about the new deadlines and new dimensions to the debt exchange program. Do stay. Thank you so much for staying on the AM show, the Boxing Day edition with me, Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah. Let's now delve into the conversation of our debt exchange program. We know the pension funds have been exempted, and the finance minister said that will come at an extra cost to us. And also we know that individual bondholders have now been included in the debt exchange program, and it's been extended to the 16th of this month instead of 30th of this month. Plus, Clocksack accuses some corporate trustees of exploiting prior knowledge of the program to their benefit. Now, the big question is what lies ahead of us? What is this going to mean for our hope of securing that deal as soon as possible? Should government begin to look at reviewing this exchange program? We know that has happened already, but is it open to other suggestions and alternatives? Well, this morning I've been joined by Professor Lord Mensah, an economist with the University of Ghana Business School, and Professor Charles Aka, a fellow with ISER. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for joining the program.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Great. Let me start with you, Professor Lord Mensah, because you're reported as saying on the City Newsroom's online page that you didn't believe that exempting pension funds from the debt exchange program will come at any cost to us. Right now, we've seen what government has done with the inclusion of individual bondholders and the extension of the deadline. Do you still stand by your statement that this will not come at any extra cost to us?
If you look at the new structure that has been proposed by the finance minister, clearly it's more or less captured even the pensions as well, because effectively our pensions are bouncing back, whatever the case may be. I mean, these are funds they are investing on behalf of, workers and contributors. So they may not want to, allow the funds to lie idle without any investment. So if you look at the new structures that is being proposed, I think most of the bonds will start maturing from 2027, which is 5 years from now, all the way to 2038. If you have collected people's funds, there's no way you will say that you're not going to invest. Definitely, you may keep that investment on behalf of the people. And so it's more or less a compact. And even the individual investors that have been had, if you take the composition of those holdings of the government bonds, you come to realize that the individual bonds are not that many. Most individuals invest indirectly, through institutions here and there. So effectively, it will definitely capture individuals as well. And what is more intriguing about the new structure that is being proposed is the maturity frame and then the 80% of assurance that is binding, of principle that is binding between the investor and then the government. So effectively, it has a way of capturing whatever is needed. But then I still stand by my statement that it won't come at a cost, because there's no way pension funds are going to say they won't invest in government instruments. So whatever new proposal that is coming is encompassed. Definitely institutions are going to invest in the new package.
Interesting. Can you explain further what that will mean to persons who are excited by the fact that pension... Hello, Prof? Hello, Professor Lordmans, are you there?
Hello, I'm here.
All right, sorry, there was a bit of...
It's a matter of understanding how investment works. And earlier on, I think the new, government, this new release, government was smart not to indicate the new structure in terms of interest payment or coupon payment. But then I can tell you that whatever the case may be, pensions are going to invest. So the understanding of whether your pension is going to be taxed or not to be taxed obviously depends on your investor or your fund manager. And I think it's about time the fund managers start holding emergency meetings with the pension holders, so that they will explain to them the dynamics of investment. Because you may not want your investment to lie idle if you are managing on behalf of people. So I believe the new structure that has come in gives some hope. And I think the way, like I said, pensions may be exempted, all right, but pension fund manager may also not want investment or funds that he's managing to lie idle without investment in any instrument. So the new proposal that has come, which has maturity from 2038 with 5-year bond, all the way down to which has maturity from 2027, which is 5-year bond. In the worst case, we're going to get most of the pension fund managers investing in the 5-year bond. And when it matures, possibly they may extend it for further 5 years to get to that 2038. So it's something that is binding indirectly.
Interesting. I don't know about other fund managers, but for me and some colleagues here, we've been reached out to for some explanation to be given about how our fund managers are going to be a part of the debt exchange program. But let me come to you, Professor Charles Aka, fellow with ISER. There have been so many issues surrounding the domestic debt exchange. One of them is about what ClockSAG is complaining about. On Friday, there was a press conference held, and ClockSAG claims that some corporate trustees took advantage of the debt exchange program because they had prior knowledge. Its executive secretary, Isaac Bampo-Addo, revealed that these trustees, per their prior knowledge of the program, converted their domestic bond holdings into foreign assets. He's calling on the National Pension Regulatory Authority to investigate these allegations. In the first place, why is this a problem? And if there is any evidence of such happening, what could it mean?
Well, thank you very much, and Merry Christmas to you and your cherished listeners. I don't know whether ClockSAG has such evidence, but it's entirely probable and is feasible. In a developing economy where we have information asymmetry, some people, by their political connection or by their association with policymakers and regulators, may have some information that the common average Ghanaian or investor may not have. And the financial sector hinges strongly on information. Information is very critical. So it's possible that it's not only about even some individuals who sensed or picked a signal that their investment could suffer possible head cuts. Those that have even invested in mutual funds and other collective schemes, they rush to go and redeem them. And some of them purchase dollars because they've suspected that the dollar was a more safer place as a store of value. Yeah. So people have acted individually based on other expectations or based on some informed decisions or information that they may have picked up from somewhere, whether from government or from some regulators. I cannot confirm, but I can't also rule out that that could be possible. And if it is true, it's actually unfair, and I think it's a failure of regulation to make sure that information is available to everybody so that people can make proper decisions and informed decisions. And if the information is such that a few people have it, then I think that would be unfair. But since I cannot confirm that, I don't want to hazard on that.
Right. So what this simply means is that other people may have undue advantage over others based on this allegation by ClockSAG. Now let's move into the real issue of the debt exchange program. We've seen government postpone the deadline twice amid some modifications here and there. What signal does this send to you? Government is hoping to get a deal at the board level in the first quarter of next year, which we are entering to in a matter of days. Do you see this as a possibility? And if it won't be possible, what is likely going to happen as a result of that?
Yeah, thank you very much. So I think what this tells us is that the government is under very serious pressure. These are difficult times. And it looks as if there's some amount of panicking in the policy circles that does not allow them to have evidence before coming up with some policies. And that's one of the things that we've done in this country. Whether it's the introduction of e-levy, whether it's the withdrawal of toll or whatever it is, you don't have any empirical evidence. No research has gone into this kind of debt restructuring. I haven't seen one. There's not been any cost-benefit analysis that I've cited that shows what is going to be the overall impact of this debt exchange on our GDP growth, on employment, and on macroeconomic stability, even on the debt sustainability. Okay, so we seem to be making decisions, and therefore we realize that it doesn't work. Look how much was expected from e-levy, about 6.5 billion, and we are not getting even 1 billion. Even for the next 4 years, they're expecting about 3 billion. So what went into the expectation that they will introduce e-levy at that high level of 1.75 and get Ghanaians to comply and get 6.5 billion? Okay, what went into the decision to cancel the toll booths because there are traffic at some point and all the amount of money that's lost, and we now think of reintroducing it? So if the government now realizes that they need to extend the deadline, it's just showing that they're probably complacent and over-optimistic about the whole debt exchange, about the fact that people were going to accept it as it is. If they have now excluded pension funds, which for me shouldn't have been there in the first place, it was a socially useless issue to include pension funds in such a draconian debt restructuring. Pensioners, people who are 65, 80 years old, drawing their pensions, some less than 2,500 Ghana cedis a month to buy drugs, diabetes drugs, cancer drugs, kidney drugs. Why would you want to tamper with that? Okay, so that's it shouldn't have been there at all. But again, that goes to tell us that it's not everything that the IMF says that we must just swallow as sacrosanct. I was expecting the IMF to have told the government to have excluded pension funds, but they looked at it and went back to Washington, and they seem to think that it will be okay, despite the dislocation that it was going to cost to pensioners and to old people, and the inequality and the social stress it was going to bring into the economy. So I think there's still room for us to look at the whole debt exchange program again. I still think, despite I'm quite comforted by the press release and the modifications that have been made, but I think that we can still sit and still negotiate and still discuss. It also should not much discussions or negotiations went on with the various stakeholders. It looks as if this is coming.
Right. Prof, you talk about the modifications that you are happy about. In fact, government says that it extended the deadline to January 19 because it's hoping to, January 16 rather, I beg your pardon, because it's hoping to engage further. It says that these modifications were done considering feedback from the financial sector in relation to the need to secure internal approvals. Further, this extension affords government of Ghana the opportunity to consider suggestions made by all stakeholders with the aim of adjusting certain measures acceptable within the constraints of the government's debt sustainability analysis. Would you say that this seeming openness that we are seeing from government with regards to listening to other stakeholders and other opinions on this debt restructuring program came in a bit too late, considering the untidy nature with which we're doing some of these things now?
Yeah, I think it came in late, but probably not too late. Since we are still discussing with the IMF, the staff level agreement is not a final agreement. There's still room for negotiations. I wish that we have had these discussions earlier, but I've heard the government explain that because there were speculations and some misinformation going on, they had to come in to try to basically cure any mischief. And probably they announced the program before they could conclude negotiations. That's an explanation that I've heard. But I think that we need to still negotiate. And I think a lot of discussions could have been had before even the staff level agreement. It looks as if there's a lot of haste. And it's understandably so, because the way things were going and the exchange rate depreciating very, very fast and the inflation now going over 50%. I think government wanted to do something. And then again, politically, there was a lot of heat on the Minister of Finance to resign and all of that. So you would expect that he must be seen to be doing something. But I think one of the things we need to look at is basically the impact, the overall impact of the debt exchange has to be quantified. And we need to look at alternatives. It looks as if the government is not considering an alternative. And I've heard some economists and some other people suggest that this is the only alternative. There's no other alternative beyond the IMF, and there's no other alternative beyond a debt exchange program, which I totally disagree. I think there are a number of attractive alternatives that government has not really considered. And if we consider them, it may either enforce our negotiations with the IMF, or it may actually come to show that we could actually do without the IMF.
Prof, do you mind sharing some of those alternatives?
Well, I mean, the first alternative, which I've been making that point over and over again for some months now, is that we need to look at the least costly and least disruptive policy option in times like this. Okay, so whether we are going to do a debt exchange or not, we need to make sure that the policies we introduce are the least costly and the least disruptive. And I think that the domestic debt exchange is not the least costly and it's not the least disruptive. It's going to cause a lot of disruptions and dislocations, even in the financial system. Many banks will struggle with their capital, and it's going to probably lead us to financial instability, financial crisis. And that's what the government is proposing, stabilization fund, because that they anticipate that it's possible that this debt exchange could dislocate and bring a crisis in the financial sector. And that can be costly, and that can actually worsen our confidence. And already government is struggling since we had a financial sector cleanup. So my proposal, actually, is that if you look at the structure of the domestic debt, I don't want to talk much about external debt. It's a different issue. But when you look at the domestic debt, the government, and I think Dr. Lord Mensah already alluded to the fact that most of the domestic debt, they are going to mature in about 5 years' time. So why would government want to rush into a debt exchange program for debts that are due in 5 years' time, which if we invest in the economy and the economy grows in 5 years' time, and we embark on an aggressive domestic resource mobilization, heavy taxation, and bring everybody or most people into the tax net, we could actually finance the debts that will be due in 2027 and beyond. I think the most critical is what happens in 2023 and probably 2023 to 2025, the time that we are under the IMF program. These are the most immediate debts we need to look at. And when you look at that, in 2023, only about 37 billion Ghana cedi principal of the government bonds, ESLA bonds, Dachi bonds will be due. 37 billion. So, and government is not suggesting that we cannot find 37 billion Ghana cedi or say 40 billion Ghana cedi in 2023 from this domestic economy unless we zero coupon or we restructure our domestic debt. I don't think so. Even if you look at the budget, 2023 budget, there's already a provision made for about 31 billion for interest service, domestic interest service. That is there, and it's Parliamentary program approved. In 2024, we have about 52.7 billion allocated to service domestic debt. Okay, so that means that tax revenue is what we need to look at. Are we taxing enough, high enough? Is the corporate tax, can we adjust it? We have already adjusted the VAT by 2.5%. Is that all we can do? Can we tax the rich more corporate firms that are making rich a lot of money, the companies that made a lot of windfall profits last year, can they be brought in to contribute more? Look at the informal sector. Look at the self-employed. Self-employment is contributing just about 800 million to our tax, when about 80% of the labor force is in self-employment. So if all the people that are in self-employment engage in Makola, Abobloshi, Kumasi, Kejetia, all of them, millions of people, even if each of them was paying 50 Ghana cedis a month, that's more than 800 million. So already it means that government, the revenue office, has not been aggressive enough to tax people. I spoke to a barber recently, that's my barber, and I asked him, do you pay tax? He says, no. This is a barber that barbers about 20 to 30 people a day, and he charges about 15, 20 cedis per person. So when you calculate that, his income is more than a university lecturer's salary. The university lecturer is paying about 20-25% of his salary into tax. This barber, hairdresser, mechanic, we see them, they are not in the informal economy, they are formal, they are on the street. We know them in the assembly. He told me that he pays only about 57 Ghana cedi a year to the assembly. That's whether that's registration fee or whatever it is. But beyond that, he's not being taxed. And he's making more than 6,000 Ghana cedi a month. So if we ask this barber to pay even 100 Ghana cedi a month, or 200 Ghana cedi, or 5% on his revenue, that would be about 300 Ghana cedis. And there are millions of such people.
Right. Prof, but this suggestion you give, there are those who say that it's a fine suggestion, but considering where we are and the short time within which we need to salvage our economy, this may be a long-term approach to solving the problem. While answering that, there's also the bit on when the announcement was given by government about a decision to go to the IMF, and the information minister was specific. He said, look, this is to deal with a balance of payments. We will introduce other revenue mobilization measures. So government is hoping to do multiple things while going to the IMF.
I agree. So the balance of payment issue has to do with our exports. So it's when a country is not able to export aggressively and to make more export revenue and attract more foreign direct investment, which is more sustainable, and rein in more remittances, that the country suffers a balance of payment issue. So basically, it means that our inflows of foreign currency has not been able to match our outflows in terms of our import. So government is already doing something about the dependence on import, and that is supposed to reduce substantially. One of it has to do with our oil import, and I think we need to do something about it. I have some policy discussions about that later on. We could discuss that. But our export, we need to look at how we can raise more export. And if the government decides to go to the IMF, that's fine. It's going to get about $3 billion to support the balance of payment. But that should not come at a cost of disrupting the whole domestic economy. Because basically, what happened in Jamaica, what happened in Greece, if you look at the literature, it increased poverty and unemployment and a lot of discolorations. In fact, Jamaica had to do the debt exchange twice within 3 years because the first one was not successful. Poverty increased, unemployment increased. It actually led to some kind of social riot. We've seen that kind of thing before, even in Ghana here. Okay, under Busia administration, when Busia came into power, there was a lot of debt that he inherited from the previous government. And in trying to restructuring this debt, he went about and nobody was willing to do that, all the international creditors. He went into an IMF program. The IMF program was very draconian, the austerity was too harsh, and there were demonstrations all over in Accra. And actually that was part of the reason why Achampong came to lead to the overthrow, because there was total chaos. So we have seen the cost, the social cost of domestic debt exchange. And if it's not necessary, we don't need to go there. We could actually engage on the external sector. Where our problem is coming from is not domestic. It's the fact that we have overexposed our economy to foreign debt. And the servicing of the foreign debt, we don't have the dollars to service it. And that has put pressure on our exchange rate. And that's why we are going to the IMF. But it seems as we are going to the IMF may be demanding that for equity reasons and fairness, you cannot restructure your external debt unless the Ghanaians are also willing to bear some of the cost. And therefore, we want to show to our external creditors and to the IMF that we are willing also to engage in a domestic debt exchange. But I think we need to begin to talk to the IMF. We have an economy to protect. We have jobs to protect. We have employment to protect. We have poverty to reduce. And therefore, we have the political security to protect. And therefore, any suggestion that IMF is giving about the domestic debt exchange, we need to look at what is the effect. Finally, this is my proposal. My short-term proposal is this. There's a reason why every sovereign country has a central bank. The central bank is the lender of last resort. The central bank is the only country that is the only bank that is actually the government's own bank. And in terms when the government is in a crisis and having liquidity problem, the central bank is the first place to run to for cover. Now, when you look at the debt that the government has, 137 billion Ghana cedis domestic debt, about 40 billion of that is owed to the central bank. And I am suggesting that even if we agree to have a domestic debt exchange, instead of dislocating the financial sector and trying to have a debt exchange that involve all these pension funds and these commercial banks and these insurance companies and co. For 2023, 37 billion Ghana cedi that will be due. Even if we add 2024, 15 billion, 2025, 15 billion. So for 2023 to 2025, the next 3 years under an IMF program, all the government requires is less than 70 billion Ghana cedis, 67 billion. That 67 billion, I am saying that the Central Bank of Ghana could take off and assume that debt, which means that the Central Bank is going to purchase that debt from all the commercial banks and the insurance companies. And then the Central Bank will be the single creditor to the government. So then the Central Bank will actually be, the government will be owing the Central Bank about 107 billion Ghana cedi when they add it to the already debt. That's just about 13% of 2023 GDP and about 70% of 2023 GDP. In comparative terms, compared to Malaysia, compared to South Korea, compared to Japan, compared to Germany, compared to US, even US, this is low. Since 2008, when we had the global financial crisis, it had become conventional for central banks to come in to engage in what they call quantitative easing or unconventional monetary financing of the government so that they don't dislocate their economy. And the only risk in this is that it would increase the monetary base and it could increase inflation. Inflation could increase. And that is the only risk. And that is a less distortionary, less costly than because we have tools to deal with inflation. If inflation goes beyond the expectations where we are, we have taxes in the fiscal policy. We have the monetary policy to increase interest rate and to use the reserve requirement ratio to rein in that. At the moment, the inflation that we are having in Ghana is a bad inflation. It's inflation that the monetary policy is not able to rein in. Despite the fact that they have increased the policy rate by about 1,250 basis points since January, inflation is still going up, both producer price inflation and consumer price inflation. It tells us that this inflation is external, is supply side, it's not something that we can fight easily, and it's bad. It does not help at all. There's good inflation and bad inflation.
Right.
If we increase the money supply, and that brings in aggregate demand, and that creates jobs, and that stabilizes our financial sector, and that brings in an additional 2, 3, 5, 10% inflation, that is good inflation. And if we think that that is extraordinary inflation to reduce, it can be reduced with the standard tools that we have, both fiscal and monetary policy. And you will see that this kind of debt restructuring will not involve pension funds. It will not involve the commercial banks. It will not affect financial instability or anything. It is just going to be between the government and its central bank that the central bank has probably been exposed and it has now acquired more debt. And therefore, we need to look at how to pay that debt over time. And, and for me, that's the most immediate, sensible policy proposal to avoid a dislocation of economy.
Right. Professor Lord Mensah, in his submission, Professor Aka gives the Jamaican example. And during the time he announced the debt restructuring program or the debt exchange program, the finance minister mentioned Jamaica and Greece, where he mentioned that in Greece it was not voluntary, it was backed by law, but in Jamaica it was voluntary. And he suggested that he didn't want us, or government didn't want to get to that point. Do you see us getting there with all the pushback and modifications we are seeing?
Well, I don't think we'll get there. Whether it's going to be voluntary or it's going to be involuntary, it depends on the economic structure. If you have an economy where, chunk of the investment is in government debt, then obviously, the investor will be forced to conform or adhere to whatever restructuring that is, coming through. If you look at, the composition of our, debt, you could see that about 23% is only in pension. So exemption of pensions means that other, investment can be sacrificed. Now, you realize that government removed pensions. Now it's saying that we're going to include individual investors who are investing directly into government bonds. Now, the terms as a result of interest payment and all those, 2023, government seemed to be, if you look at the first statement, the statement that was issued, government is preparing to pay for, bonds that are maturing in 2023. So the new restructuring that is coming up, gives way, which will have no option for other financial institutions to buy into it. Because when your bond gets matured in 2023 and you receive your, interest payment and coupons, obviously you may have no choice than to reinvest. And looking at inflation now, you are better off reinvesting than, keeping the money idle. So, in the end, what the new structures that are coming seem to be a bit flexible and seem to, absorb, all the, investable assets into the folds of government. So I believe that it's something that government may have to, sit down and let the people be aware that this is what we need to restructure, the economy, to make the economy, to make the economy find its footing. And at the end of the day, we may all end up, enjoying, into the future. The same new structure, indicate that we're going to have bonds that are maturing from 2027 all the way to 2028. If it's trust and if it's possible, mistrust that you have in government. As far as our, pensions regulation is concerned, pensions have about 75% minimum to be invested in, government bonds. And so what the government is proposing, most of these bonds are 5 years and above, and we're going to see maturities from 2027 all the way to 2038. So if you're a pension fund manager and you think, you don't have trust in the government for you to invest in that long term, which will be about, let's say, a 15-year bond, or let's say 10-year bond, then you may have perhaps do, 5 years, which will be from 2023 to 2027. And then from there on, maybe you can decide to reinvest or whatever you will do with your funds. You indicate that as far as your investment matures. So with a new structure, I think government is becoming a bit softer, from its end to get a buy-in of the investors. And we hope that investors will come to appreciate some of this restructuring that is ongoing.
Right. I'm just going through some of the comments. We are live on Facebook, and there are those who are still concerned about no-show when it comes to what real commitment government is putting in terms of cutting down its expenditure. There are those who say, hold on with the programs. For our editorial last week, we spoke about the National Cathedral and the other pressing needs for Ghanaians. This comment I'm referring to on our social media page also spoke of saying there is, it appears, a bit of hesitancy by a lot of people to get onto this debt exchange program. Do you believe that government can get or win back the trust of the investor community by making some of these bold decisions?
Yeah, it has to do with government also sacrificing its part to get a buy-in of the people. You see, I've been making this statement. I think your people are about to, understand. I said, what is the government exchanging for this debt exchange? We should understand that, debt is a counterparty agreement. And if you are pushing a sacrifice to a counterparty, it is also important for the bondholder, the issuer, to also absorb certain, sacrifices, and also the assurance that the benefit that we're going to accrue from this, whole exercise of debt restructuring. What is the assurance that government will use the possible inflows as a result of interest sacrifices judiciously? History has never supported us on this, as far as, government structures and expenditure lines are concerned. So if people are calling for government to reduce the number of ministers, to reduce the number of ministries and all those, it's all part of the a way of, ensuring that when we go into the whole debt restructuring, the benefits that comes across, government may use it, judiciously. If you look at, the entire exercise, which is the debt restructure, it's an economic exercise, which my colleague, Professor Aka, indicated. There is a benefit to it, and there is also a cost to it. The benefit is that government is going to free up that fiscal space to ensure that, they operate comfortably. The cost will be that if we don't get the buy-in of the people, and then in the end, it backfires, like what we're about to witness when it comes to labor front, hinting on a whole country kind of strike, which is going to go a long way to affect production. On the other hand, if you look at the trust that the investor community is going to have in government instrument, that will also reduce. So those are the costs that needs to be managed very well. But then if you look at the benefit, another question we're asking is, how is the government going to ensure that the benefit that comes from this debt restructuring exercise is used to turn the economy around, so that whatever is being sacrificed, investors can reap it in the long run. Remember, everything is about timing, because if we go into this and it turns up that government is not able to use whatever proceeds as a result of this interest, payment, it's going to, push the economy down further. So I believe that calling for, government to downsize its number of ministers and all those, sacrificing part of the of their expenditure lines are all, measures to ensure that whatever benefit we're going to accrue from this exercise, it is used, for the purpose to turn around, the economy. But with the current, structure that we have, it's not supportive of, ensuring that the proceeds that we're going to have, we're going to use it as expected, because we know that it's the same structure that has sent us to the kind of economic quagmire that we find ourselves in. So if we don't do anything about the structure, then obviously people will question what shows that this sacrifice that we're going to do, you can use it to the interest of the people. So it's a right call, and I believe that for the government to get a buy-in of the people, not just to look at the restructuring, the timing and extension of date of settlement of this new bond, but then also look at the way they can reduce government expenditure, especially the discretionary ones. The ones that goes into capital expenditure and the ones that goes into goods and services. Government has control over them, and I believe that it's something that they can look at.
Finally, gentlemen, the Imani Reckless Index or Recklessness Index has put the Finance Ministry at the top again, and this is for the 6th consecutive time. The index or the report found out that the Finance Ministry is responsible for 99.63%, that is 9.10 billion cedis of the combined 9.12 billion tax irregularities from 2015 to 2020. And this is the Finance Ministry that is supposed to oversee all that we're going to do with the IMF and our general economy. Do you get a sense that we need to have a certain overhaul? Does this feed into the concerns that we need to ask the finance minister to leave and get a new person? Your brief thoughts on this as we wrap up the conversation.
Yeah, these are all signals that are on the ground that people have picked, and they keep on, hammering that the structures must change. The structures may not be just downsizing. Some personalities, must change, and that should be able to help us. Because if you don't change the structures and we still have the same personalities in place, that means that, whatever benefits that we're supposed to enjoy from the entire exercise, looking at IMF program and now, the preparation towards the IMF program, which is the debt exchange program, and then also getting the IMF program, the assurance that we can use this kind of, new policies to restructure or to change the economy is not there. And so if you have a whole finance ministry topping, tax evasions here and there, then it's quite questionable. That's why I believe that some structures must change.
Right. Professor Aka, what about you?
Yeah, thank you very much. So I think that well, it's unfortunate, but it's not. I don't want to make this finance minister's issue. We have had independence since about 65 years ago, and it looks as if we have been quite complacent and quite mediocre with governance. And I think it's about time we became quite serious about governance and corruption and wastage and misallocation of resources. And I don't know what civil society has to do. Parliament, I don't think, has done the best oversight over the executive and Auditor General and Co. They just bring out a report, and I don't think people have been surcharged. People have not been penalized for things that they have to do. So sometimes you just, whether it's from a nurse or from somebody, some investigative report will come. Some people will be accused and they'll go to court for 10 years, 20 years, and then they are left off the hook or they're never jailed or whatever happens. These things do not augur well for confidence and trust and for people wanting to contribute into the economy, even to pay their taxes. Okay, so if we see those kind of things going on, and when you see in the midst of poverty, in the midst of youth unemployment, every 3 young people you see in the country, one is unemployed. Okay, youth unemployment, graduate unemployment, poverty. Everywhere you pass in this country, you see potholes, you see terrible roads in our communities on the highway. Why should we be in Ghana after 65 years of independence and we still don't have a dual carriageway or motorway that links the capital city of Accra to the next second largest city in Kumasi, to go to Tamale or to Takrady or to Aflao? I mean, after 65 years with all the gold and all the resources we have in this country. So when you compare ourselves to Malaysia, to South Korea, to China, to countries that we started together, I mean, I think we have been joking. And I think some of these things we need to take seriously. The president needs to call the shot, and he needs to fire people, discipline people, reshuffle when that is necessary. That will introduce confidence into the system and encourage the ordinary people to pay their taxes. Many people are paying taxes in the UK, high taxes. Our tax to GDP is still around 13%, less than 25% that we expect to be as a middle-income country. We don't pay taxes here, and because people think that, look, where they live, they don't see the role of the government. They are living in a place where people don't still have potable water in this country. People don't have electricity. They don't have accessible roads. And you're asking them to pay e-levy. You're asking them to pay another increase in VAT. You're asking them to pay their taxes.
Property rates.
Property rates. I mean, you live in a place
where the road leading to your house is not good.
It's not good. So, and then if you see that the executives are spending it on largesse, and then I don't think that's something that's good. So I think we need to look at that. And even though we are discussing it now, it affects the current government, it affects the finance minister now. But it's historical. It's been something we have been dealing with over the last 60 years. And I think it's about time both the political parties and then the parliament take this matter seriously.
Thank you so much, Prof and Prof. It's been a pleasure having you. And let me say thank you so much to Professor Lord Mensah, who's been a regular on the show. Even as we wrap up the year, thank you for contributing and analyzing some of the key economic issues for us here on the AM show. Happy New Year to you, and Merry Christmas rather, and a Happy New Year to you, Prof and Prof.
Thank you very much. Happy returns.
Great.
Happy returns.
Have a blessed New Year.
You too. Right, so it's Boxing Day, and I know some of you would usually spend a lot with your family during this time, but because of concerns about the economy, you're trying to lay a bit low. But that's why we here at Joy FM have put together a very budget-friendly program for you. It's the Joy FM Vital Family Party in the Park. It's happening at the Ebri Botanical Garden. It's actually started at 9 a.m. till you decide that you've had enough fun. There will be music, there will be games for the children, there's a village, a bar for the men, there's interesting package for the whole family. So you just want to call the Joy FM front desk or just drive through, pick up your ticket, 100 cedis for a family of 6, and go to the Ebri Botanical Garden and have some fun. Kwame, Eugene, Kidi, Kwabna, Perez Music, and a host of others will be there. So that's just by way of information for you. Here on the AM show also, we've been speaking to key policy makers. We'll take you now to Parliament, where one of them has been engaging with my colleague, Kweku Asante.
And welcome again to our series of conversations with members of Parliament in this meeting. You know, this is the budget meeting. They met primarily, they looked at other issues, but the key focus was the 2023 budget, which is under conversation. The economic policy and the statement that was read by the minister has since been approved. But today we are having a conversation with Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed. He's a former Trades and Industry Deputy Minister. He's also on the committee currently. He's also on the Public Accounts Committee. We're looking at a number of issues that has happened within this meeting of Parliament and what his views are on those. So, Honourable, thank you for inviting us to your office today.
Thank you for having me.
Honourable, the budget is the key issue for this meeting. I mean, what are your views on some of the measures that have been introduced? Do you sense them as the key measures that will take Ghana out of the current economic conundrum?
Well, first and foremost, I was elected to represent a constituent, and representing the constituents, also representing the people of Ghana, because the 275 members of Parliament, we represent the entire nation called Ghana. And therefore, whatever we do here must be reflective of what their interest is. And that is why we are expected to consult our constituents before taking major decisions, and major decisions such as items that have been identified in the policy statement. In your intro, you said the budget was approved. What we approved was the policy statement. You remember last year, the policy statement's approval wasn't a problem, but certain items in the policy statement was what we had problems with, such as the e-levy. This particular budget, we have approved it. And when I say approved it, you remember we voted against the approval of the budget. Yeah. We voted against it because the Speaker decided to take it on voice vote. And in his estimation, the yeas had it more than the nays. And you remember, he had to take it about 2 times. Maybe the question is that we could have called for division. We didn't do that because we don't have problems with the entire budget. I mean, it would be ridiculous if we say that we have problems with every item in the budget. We have problems with certain items in the budget. So we can approve the policy statement. Mind you, those items are going to be approved or not individually. And some of them, if they are new legal regimes that are being brought, particularly the taxes, they would have to come through bills. You know. So clearly, that was how we did. We have identified some of the items in the budget we have problems with. One, given 80 million Ghana cedis for the purposes of the President's Cathedral, we said we have a problem with it. This is not a Ghana's cathedral. It's the President's Cathedral. It was not in the MPP manifesto. He never told anybody that he was going to put up a cathedral. It was after the elections. He said that he had a pledge with his creator, and therefore, if he won the elections, he was going to provide the creator with a cathedral. And then I wonder whether the creator told him that he was interested in a cathedral. If you have made a pledge with your creator and you want to please your creator, you need to improve the living conditions of the people. And for me, the creator will be more pleasing. The reason why we have problems with it also is that, assuming tomorrow, a president wakes up and says that, yes, I made a pledge with Satan, that if he helps me to win the elections, I was going to kill about 100 Ghanaians, and therefore I should be given the opportunity to do so. It's ridiculous. I am very convinced that the Christians in Ghana have the capacity to put up a cathedral. If Christians want to put up a cathedral, and me, who is a Muslim, I want to assist, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. You saw what happened to the Central Mosque at Abu Sokan, when it was in a very terrible shape. Pastor Mensah Otabil provided pain for it. Muslims didn't say no, because we all worship one God, and the cohesion that exists among people of faith in Ghana is something that we should all jealously protect and guide. And therefore, if Christians wanted to do that, there's nothing wrong with it. And I believe that there will be several Muslims who will be willing to assist.
But you've always had
I would have no problems.
That the minister was taking money out of contingency vote, not coming to Parliament.
Yes.
Now he's come through.
No, I'll even come to that.
How do you build the house of God through fraudulent means? You think that God will be happy with you?
Which fraudulent
The
means
Constitution is very clear that you cannot take money such as that for the purposes of executing a project such as that without getting parliamentary approval. And they knew that what they were doing was illegal. So why would you build the house of God through illegal means? Again, the amount of money is given to the architect. The architect, how complex is it? We've all seen the designs that you spend such millions of dollars for the purposes of an architectural design. I mean, something that I believe that young people, young architects in this country could have done free for people of faith without even taking a dime. Who approved that? With what authority? So these are some of the issues. Another issue we have problem with has to do with the 2.5% increase in VAT. I think that sometimes I ask myself whether President Nanado, sometimes he reminisces over some of the actions he takes.
That was brought by the NDC.
Yes, and I remember I was in Legon. That was my first year. No, I wasn't in Legon then. That was 1995 and it was finally introduced sometime 1996, 1997. By that time, I was at the teacher training college. President Nanado led demonstration. 5 Ghanaians lost their lives, or 5 Ghanaians lost their lives, including a 14-year-old boy. The blood of that boy will be on the hands of this man. And I say this because even when he had the opportunity to rule this country, then he was the Minister for Justice and Attorney General. The family insisted that justice was needed to be done. And they insisted, they went to him, they demanded that there was the need for some investigation. Mind you, they accused the NDC at that time. He did nothing. He had the opportunity to be the president of the Republic of Ghana. He did nothing. How will this man feel that something you opposed, you led demonstration, led to the loss of lives, including an innocent 14-year-old boy? That same thing, mind you, when finally the NDC brought it, they didn't only oppose it in Parliament, they walked out. And the first decision of the NPP government under President Kufuor was that they expanded the tax net. And now this man, this president, with all due respect, is increasing same that he opposed on principle.
What if now he has found the value in the tax?
Principles do not. So are you telling me that he didn't see any need in that tax?
Maybe at the time he thought that he was overburdening Ghanaians. Now he feels like the economy has opened enough to increase it by 2.5%.
Between that time and this time, which of these two periods would you say that Ghanaians are really overburdened with any tax increase?
Well, I was very young at the time.
No, but you saw. Yeah. At that time, we didn't have the struggle. The economy was not struggling as it is struggling today. So there can't be any justification with that. We said we are against that particular tax regime. Again, e-levy. When they introduced e-levy, we oppose it. Multimedia opposed e-levy because you conducted a survey. And over 90% of the people of this country says they were against. In fact, who responded to your survey said they were against the e-levy. Central University, the university that made their auditorium available for Dr. Bawku to engage in the voodoo economics he engaged in, hoodwink everybody into believing that he had the magic wand. Central University conducted a survey, and over 90% of the people who responded said they were against the survey. ISE, the last time I checked, ISE is not an NDC wing. ISE advised the government against the survey. Imani, CDD, almost everybody advised this government. What is ridiculous about the belligerence of this Minister for Finance and this President refusing to heed to reasonable argument and justification for the need to shelve that tax regime. When we had our post-budget workshop, and mind you, every year after the budget is presented, the post-budget workshop, the experts who are brought to take us through, identified by both Parliament and government, because the experts will take us through the policy decisions of government as captured in the policy statement. Now, all the experts who were brought, identified between Parliament and government, they all spoke against the e-levy, including Professor Ali Nacha. So they refused to listen to anybody. Even in this house, in this Parliament, we've had some of our colleagues, I mean, they are so cowardized and they have lost principles, particularly the MPP, some of the MPP members of Parliament. They won't come publicly to state. But I have had evidences that some senior members told me that they went to this minister pleading with him to reduce the percentage, and he refused to listen. Now, you introduce it, And we were told that the reason why they put a cap for those who were eligible to pay the tax was to take care of the poor, was to protect the vulnerable. Where has morality gone?
No, now they are we are removing the threshold
and now
reducing the rate.
No, hold on, I'm coming. I'm saying that the reason why they put the cap, the threshold of 100 cedis above, was to protect the poor. Your good friend and one of your former employees, the current Minister for Information, went to town with it. The minute all the incompetent communicators of MPP went to town with it, telling Ghanaians that they were so concerned about Ghanaians. And man, you remember, the Ajia Qatar, the minister for... Yes. You remember she granted an interview in one of the local radio stations and said that if you are able to do a momo of 200 Ghana cedis, you can't claim to be poor. I mean, that was so insensitive. That was so unrational for a minister of state. You've seen the young ladies cleaning this ministry. And I remember I made the same point on your station. I asked some of them how much they pay them. And they said 400 Ghana cedis a month. Now, some of them are from far distances. Now, assuming that the mother, one of them who said the mother was in central region, I mean the parents were in central region, she takes 400 Ghana cedis and the mother is not well. And she needs to send 200 Ghana cedis to the mother because the health of the mother will be more important than any other person. Such a person sends 200 Ghana cedis. By the wicked mind of Ajia Qatar, such a lady cannot claim to be poor. That's what it means. So if she takes 200, that's 50% of what she earns at the end of the month. How much is the minimum wage? 14 cedis. Yeah. And then you have a minister of state, because she's so powerful now, she thinks that 200 Ghana cedis you can't claim to be poor. Now, with all these stories, we are protecting the poor. They have decided to reduce it from 1.5 to 1%. And now the protection of the poor is no longer necessary.
Because they think they've reduced the rate.
And have they improved the living conditions of the people of this country? Even 0.0% would be a serious burden on the poor. Now you have taken away what they have simply done is that the rich will now be enjoying. Because every tax instrument, you must look at the burden of that tax on your citizens. And that is why the best tax instrument should be progressive, not regressive. This particular tax instrument is regressive. The burden is going to be on the poor. So what this government, what President Nana Addo and Dr. Bawumia are telling you Ghanaians, that we don't care about you. You can suffer, we don't care. We said we were protecting you. We are no longer interested in protecting you. That is what it means. And that is why we say we are going to vote against this. We'll do everything possible to ensure that this thing doesn't pass through.
You don't have the numbers. It to be like last year.
When you say we don't have 136. When you say we don't have the numbers, what do you mean?
I mean, you have 136 MPs.
Yes.
The NPP have 137 plus 1 independent.
Some of them are not even there.
If you take out that's 137.
You see, and that is where I feel so upset about the 90 members of Parliament.
MPs. And today you actually you are going to work on that censure motion vote. Yes. Listen, they are politicians. They listen to their political party. They look at the political considerations of their actions.
When I started, I said we were elected. In fact, I used myself, and I did that for a reason. I said I was elected to represent the people of Tamale Central, and by extension, I'm representing the people of Ghana, and therefore, whatever action or decision I take here should be reflective of what they want. Those 90 members of Parliament told us that the action they took, demanding the resignation of the Minister for Finance or he being forced to jump, was an action taken after consultation they had with their constituents. They told us that.
Yeah.
They told us that. And I remember I was on a TV station, Joy Prime, with one of the spokesperson, my good friend, Honorable Eugene Ahin. And he made a very famous... Eugene
Boachenji, the MP for
Subin Gold. Yeah. Boachenji, yes, Eugene, Honorable Eugene. And he said that he made a very famous statement. He said, in fact, when he wanted to make that statement, he turned to look at the cameras and said, Mr. President, you said it was the NDC members of Parliament who were asking that the Minister for Finance to go. We are now telling you, your own members of Parliament are asking the Minister to go. Where has principles gone? I think principles
the principles are so that what they've decided to do is to accept the president's request that allow the Minister of Finance finish the processes regarding the budget and also the IMF talks.
No, that is not the reason. They changed their minds after they themselves admitted that the businessman met them. And after they, let me finish. And
the Apia could be told us that when the businessman came, they sacked the businessman.
Hold on. First and foremost, don't you think that you people, journalists, and particular multimedia, you should be interested in finding out who that businessman is?
We're interested. We've been asking
hold on.
The majority
not questions. You should go beyond investigating. You should go. It is not the majority leader who should investigate. He came and met all of them.
Well, we've done stories where anti-corruption societies have asked the special prosecutor to investigate.
Is he interested? I am saying that the special prosecutor should be interested in this. Who was that businessman? Who sent him? Did he come on his own volition? Was he sent by the government? What was the interest? And what gave that businessman the courage to meet members of parliament, the legislature, and extended monies to them? They admitted he extended some envelopes. I mean, clearly, if this thing had happened under NDC, I'm telling you, this country wouldn't have been the same. You would have had the so-called anti-corruption agencies. You would have had the Kuma and Co. Maybe perhaps their mouths are full. They are no longer talking. You would have had the what's the name of that MPP wing? That group. Institute. Oh, the list said about them, the better. That group that went and that had a vigil at the Flagstaff House.
Occupy Ghana.
Yes.
Occupy Ghana is not an MPP
it's an MPP wing.
It's
it's an MPP independent people. Give me a minute. When this government came, they gave the tax, the monies. There were some loans and others went. Were they not the
transaction advisors? Because they are professionals.
Didn't we have transaction lawyers at the Ministry of Finance who could do that? We raised these issues. And at what price? Is it not shameful that those who claimed to be so independent-minded, if NDC had done that with a lawyer who was an NDC person and who was speaking in defense of NDC, Kuma and Co would have gone to town to say that the Minister of Finance has lawyers, the Minister for Justice and Attorney General, they could have handled that. Yet he found it very convenient and comfortable to handle it at such exorbitant rate. That money that was given to them could have been saved if the government had asked the legal department of the Ministry of Finance, who had the capacity to handle it. He could have asked the Minister of Justice and Attorney General to handle it at no cost. Yes, we're very comfortable. I am saying that that group is an MPP wing. It's an MPP wing. There is no amount of words you can use because all the principles they stood against under the NDC, they had those principles under the NPP. And that is the point I am making. Why are they not interested? Why is the serious fraud, the special prosecutor not interested? We need to know who that businessman is. What was his interest? Who sent him? The temerity, the courage to even meet members of parliament and extended money. Is it a case that he's been extending monies to them? They changed their position not because they were called to the Flagstaff House. They changed their position because the businessman, they themselves admitted. Nobody was holding a dagger. Nobody was holding a dagger behind them when they admitted that the businessman came. Why are they not willing?
To be very fair, if they are willing to put out that information and say that some businessman came to see us and we asked him to go. No, they
didn't put it out. After members from our side and some journalists said that they got information that a businessman came to meet them. They didn't put it.
They could have denied it.
No.
Because the businessman met them.
They could not deny it because the propensity, the way the information came, there was no way they could. So let's get this. They didn't put it out there. So we got the information, including some journalists, and I guess yourself, you got information that a businessman came to meet them. So there was no way they could deny it. Perhaps because they didn't know the extent of information that other people had. And therefore, the safest way was to admit, one certain, they are not willing, they themselves, to tell us who that businessman is. Why? If you think that you refuse to accept the bribe, if you think that nothing untoward happened, why are you not willing to tell us who that businessman is? So I am saying that they changed their mind. They are so unprincipled. They did that not because the president called them. They did that because that businessman met them. But in any case, didn't they know the consequences of their actions even before the president called them? Mind you, it was not the 90 members of MP's position. Subsequently, the majority leader publicly stated that it was the position of the entire caucus. What has changed? Even after they met the president.
What has changed is that the NPP MPs are not willing to sink their political party to support the NDC in this censure motion. They say that, well, you can go to Kumasi, you can use the flight, you can use the road, and you will all get to Kumasi. You want the finance minister out by a vote of censure. We also want him out, but we are dealing that internally. They don't want to give you that victory. You say that the NDC are the ones who have gotten the minister out
let me first
by voting for your censure motion.
Remember,
their party has asked them to abstain from the vote. Today, if you go to the floor, you will lose because you don't have the two-third majority required to get the minister out. You call them, they will abstain.
In the first place, the day they held the press conference, I said it was not genuine. You remember? I don't know what I didn't speak to you, but I spoke to somebody and I said it wasn't genuine. And they had problems. You know why I said so? The day before the day they had the press conference, Honorable Haruna Idrisu at Conclave, or in a meeting with the leadership, including Speaker, had indicated to Honorable Chairman Sabonsu that this was the decision we have taken as a caucus, that we're going to move a motion of censure a day before they had the press conference. And in fact, the day we moved the motion, that was the day they also had the press conference. Honorable Haruna indicated publicly on the floor and said that the majority leader is aware that yesterday we indicated to him that we're going to have the censure motion. The conference was not genuine. They did that press conference because we had indicated to them that we were going to move a motion of censure.
NPP MPs will come forward to put that amount of pressure on the minister and the president, not in a genuine show.
They wanted to take the wind out of our sail because they didn't want us, because we were going to have the censure, and they said, look, they could not be moving a motion of censure. So let's hold a press conference and demand that the minister resigns or he's asked to go.
Parliamentary correspondent Kwekwa Sante with Murtala Mohammed, the MP for Tamale Central. Well, we'll be getting interactive with you shortly. The number to call 0302-211-691, 0302-211-691. Let us know what your thoughts are on the major issues we've been discussing this morning, and also how you're spending Christmas. And water is life. It regulates your body temperature and keeps you alive and kicking. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. We have the perfect sizes for all occasions: 330 ml and 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and bags, 750 ml for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more. We've introduced our special 19-liter jar for offices and homes. Now you just need to stay awake with Awake purified drinking water wherever you go. Come on, grab a bottle of Awake water and get quality hydration. Awake purified drinking water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. It's produced by Casapreco. For bulk purchase, please call 026-235-1251. This advert is FDA approved. And the Joy FM Friday Family Party in the Park has started. You can walk to our premises here at Joy to pick up a ticket. There's a promotion going on now. We have 5 free tickets to give away. 5 free tickets to give away. So just drive here quickly and pick up one for yourself. Well, we have our first caller. Hello, Ben. Hello, Ben. Oh, too bad we lost Ben there. Ben was calling from North Achimota. Ben, please call us again. We'd love to hear what you have to share with the rest of the world. If you are like Ben, you have something to share with us, an input, a contribution on any of the major stories we've been discussing, you're most welcome. The number to call 0302-211-691, extension 2. Would like to get really interactive with you right about now. But like I said, the Joy FM Friday Family Party in the Park has started at a botanical garden, and it's till you get tired. So please make your way there. We have Ramsey from... hello, Ramsey?
Hey.
Hi, Ramsey. Where are you calling us from?
Please, I'm calling from New Achimota. I'm Ben.
Oh, this is Ben, rather, from New Achimota. All right, okay, great.
Yes, please.
Ben, let's hear you.
I'm trying to say that per the interview that I just watched from Mutaka, okay, there is example of things that we have to take good care of. You see, these MPs who met the businessman, who are not willing to bring out the name of these people. Let's assume that it is NPC who were in power and they met this businessman. What do you think will happen in this country? You, the journalists, are also not helpful. You are not helping us. See, look at the difficulties that we Ghanaians are passing through. And see how they are living. See the kind of life these people, these MPs are living. As you said, the country Ghana is developed to the extent that the MPs can live in a very high, luxurious life. See the ordinary Ghanaians who voted for them. See, our life is seriously miserable. We are in X-Man. I have not been paid. We are in X-Man. I have not been paid. Just imagine. Okay? The transport, the aspects of living in this country, there is nothing we can use to compare. It's too much. And these MPs whom we voted for were able to meet a businessman to change their mind.
Well, we're told that they didn't take the money. The MPs, Ben, can I please? So what we know, based on interaction with some of these MPs, is that the money was not taken. They rejected the money.
Yes,
the only reason they held back their demand was because the president called them and said, allow the finance minister to take us through IMF, read the budget, and then we can begin to discuss his exit. So that's just for the record. Right. We have another caller, Clement from Oti. Hello, Clement. Hello, Clement. We seem to be having a challenge with one of our lines. Okay, so just kindly call the 0302-211-691, 0302-211-691, and let's hear what your thoughts are this Christmas. How are you spending it? What are your concerns? We know the government has extended the deadline for the debt exchange program once again, and we've been hearing from some analysts about the impact of this. Ahmed is calling us from Bawku. Hello, Ahmed. Let's hear you.
Hello. Good morning. Oh, you lost me.
Hello, Ahmed.
Hello.
Hi, Ahmed. We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Yes, so we want to wish everybody Merry Christmas from your end. Unfortunately for us in Bawku, Christmas is not very positive for us because of the happening. So we just pray for us. We need a political will. We need the people to integrate, come to a common place where they can trade, and then forget whatever is between them, and then unite for the future of the children of Bawku and for the safety of Ghana. We know that the security in terms of the Burkina Faso people, they are just close to us. We have so many borders there. We're praying that everybody put whatever the differences are aside and consider the future of their children. It's scary. The situation is not good at all, and we're praying that the spirit of Christmas would put together the heads of the politicians, the heads of the local people together, so that we can find lasting peace to the area. We need to end the impunity in Bawku now and immediately.
Ahmed,
thank you very much.
Thank you so much for calling. Just hold on a minute. Some people have been watching us live on Facebook. Earlier, when we discussed the issue in Bawku, they say Bawku is becoming a ghost town. People are fleeing. How are you coping? How are you staying safe?
Well, the problem with Bawku now is the trust. Nobody trusts the other. Nobody trusts the other. Everybody is staying where they belong and think that is safe for them. And so the Bawku is a very strong place, and the people are very resilient. I know they will bounce back, but I think that people running is true. It's unfortunate, but
it has to be brought to an end. But the surest way is to integrate the people, let them come to common place to trade, and then when they begin to do that, there will be some semblance of peace and confidence again. It's a difficult situation, my sister.
Right. Thank you for joining us this morning. That's Ahmed, who's calling us from Bawku, where we know that there have been some violent activities over the weekend, leading to the death of some 7 persons at least. We've been having a discussion this morning here on the AM show, and it's heartwarming to know that Ahmed, and a lot of others in Bawku have been watching us, and we will be following this keenly and bring you all the details. From Kumasi, we have Yakubu. Hello, Yakubu, how are you?
Hello.
Yakubu, we can hear you. Please go ahead. Share your thoughts.
Yeah. I say good morning to everybody and happy Christmas to every. I say good morning to everybody and happy Christmas to all Ghanaians. My problem, there is certain things that I always think and I don't get the answers. For instance, Bawku, I think the court don't do justice to us in Bawku, the court and the president, because there is a ruling in court. And if there is a ruling, if you go after the ruling and do something else, that means you break the law of the court. Is that not? Hello?
Please go ahead. I'm listening to you.
That's not what the law is.
Please make your point, Yakubu.
And so why is it that all this time the dissent is still going on? And we didn't hear anything from the Supreme Court. What is happening? They give the ruling. So if they give the ruling and something's going contrary for a ruling, what is supposed for the court to do?
So what are you expecting, briefly, Yakubu, so we can pick other callers?
Because I'm expecting the court to have forced the law to work. I'm expecting the court to start that.
We didn't get that. I think Yakubu's line has gone bad, but he's referencing a Supreme Court case there with regards to the Bawku conflict. We'll have time to take one last caller. Collings. Hello, Collings. Hello, Collings.
Good morning, my good sister. How are you doing this morning?
Doing great. Thanks for asking. Hope you are too. Let's hear you, Collings.
Yes. Can I say, let me use this opportunity to give you a Merry Christmas and advanced Happy New Year.
Thank you. Many happy returns.
Let me say something about this Christmas festivity, my sister. You see, this is not about politics matter, but it's amazing. This is unprecedented. Last week I went to buy 1, 2, 3 with my wife. My sister, I swear heaven and earth, I have a little money, about 500 cedis. I couldn't buy even rice, brass, a little oil, and communities. This Christmas is unprecedented. Not me alone. Everybody is crying. And you can see government appointees are jubilating. Even I saw your parliament. You see, I flashed something. See how they are. You see, the countries belong to both the two sides. And you see, majority of Ghanaians are suffering. We are complaining. This hardship is too much. I thought this Christmas is come to be like everybody and itself. No, meaning Akufo-Addo and the entire appointees are enjoying more than we, the citizens. But all this, we will pass through this hardship. God willing, 2024, inshallah, we will change this government, and new government will come as President John Dramani Mahama. Inshallah, God bless you and God bless Ghana.
Right, thank you so much for calling. Collins was calling from Accra. He is our last caller. And before I go, the Ghana Revenue Authority wishes to inform you that persons wishing to apply for the tax clearance certificate should do so online or download the Ghana Taxpayers app on Google Play Store or the App Store. Applicants who visit the taxpayer service centers will be assisted by officers of the authority to apply. Applicants are also required to indicate the taxpayer identification number, that's the TIN of the institution or organization requesting the certificate, so that it can be sent to them. Applicants should take note and be guided accordingly. Kindly contact the GRS toll-free 0800 900 110 or via these WhatsApp numbers 055 299 0000 or 020 063 1664, or you can send an email for further enquiries. The Ghana Revenue Authority also wishes to inform you, especially persons registered for value-added tax, that's VAT, that the Domestic Tax Revenue Division has commenced the implementation of an electronic invoicing system of VAT referred to as EVAT. Now, this involves integrating the invoicing systems of VAT-registered taxpayers to the Commissioner General's invoicing system. Taxpayers who do not have an invoicing system will be required to issue invoices using GRA's certified invoicing system at no cost. VAT-registered taxpayers are to note that refusal to integrate their invoicing systems with the Commissioner General system attracts sanctions. Kindly contact the GRA's toll-free, once again, 0800 900 110, or via these WhatsApp numbers 055 299 0000 or 020 063 1664. All right, so we've managed to squeeze in a final caller, Emmanuel from Kumasi. Hello, Emmanuel. Let's hear you quickly, please.
Hello.
Hi, please go ahead quickly, please.
Okay.
All right, so I'll read
yeah, I'll say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you. Okay. Due to the economic hardship in the country now, all people are crying. We are begging the government or the President to do something about it.
Right.
Because he's doing, he has so many ministers. That is unnecessary. He should cut down the ministers and then save money for the country.
All right. Thank you very much, Emmanuel. That's all time will allow us. And thank you so much for joining the program. We are grateful for all of you who joined either via television or online. Thank you so much. We wish you a very Merry Christmas. God willing, tomorrow we are back again at 6 a.m. to bring you the show that puts you at the heart of everything. I'm Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah. Do stay. News Desk is up next.